to Cleveland City Council Safety Committee. Madam Clerk, do we have a quorum? Will you please call the roll? Present.
Present.
Thank you very much. Councilman Slife is, I don't know if he'll arrive, he's taking care of some ill children at this point today, so if he can find somebody else to fill in, he'll be here. Okay, thank you and welcome everyone. Administration, please come to the table. Where's the administration? Administration, you're missing an action here. Come on to the table. Thank you. Well, you hiding in a corner back there, or what you doing? Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna just to lay out the day's game plan, we're gonna hear the two pieces of legislation, and then we're gonna have the presentation from the Cleveland Foundation to give us an update on the Neighborhood Safety Fund. So I'm thankful for everybody that is here today. Director, introduce your team, and I'm going to call the first piece of legislation. We only have two pieces, so we'll knock these out.
Yes, good morning, Chair and council members and those in attendance. Wayne Drummond, Director of Public Safety, and I have my staff with me. There's a few from my staff. To my right, Assistant Director Nicole Carlton. To my left, Assistant Director Jason Shackner, and to his left is Sergeant Reggie Lanton. And also at the table is Dr. Anderson to my to Nicole's far right, and also Dr. Issa to her right, and Jay, what's your last name? I'm sorry. Younglist, thank you, is there.
Okay.
They're here to assist with the piece regarding Case Western Reserve.
Thank you very much. Ordinance number 228-2025 by council members Polensek and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance to amend section 630.01 and 630.02 of the codified ordinance of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, as amended by ordinance number 574-18 passed May 14th, 2018, relating to criminal activity nuisances declared and action to abate nuisances and cost of enforcement. It came to the city, it was read for the first time on February 24th of this year. Then it was referred to the various departments and divisions, was approved by Director of Public Safety, approved by Director of Finance. It has been approved by the Director of Law, and it's back to City Council. This is our second hearing on this piece. It was held for want of additional information. So, Director, today you're up at the table with your team with regard to the piece. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to turn this over to Assistant Director Shatner. He's the lead from the Department of Public Safety, so he'll go into the particulars of this particular ordinance.
Thank you, Director. To the Chair and the members of Council, I'm going to outline what I'm going to talk about today. First, I'm going to talk about the data that y'all asked for at the last meeting. Then I'm going to talk about our conversations with the divisions of assessments and licenses that we had the other day, discussing how
Mr. Chairman, point of information. Does the distinguished gentleman have any pass outs for us so that we can start reviewing those now?
I do have some things to pass out.
Thank you.
These were all, they were all sent?
They were all sent. They were sent previously to the clerk to be distributed to the members, but I do have additional hard copies.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Should keep one for myself so I know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
There you go. Here's the next one.
Thank you.
If you could take one and pass it down, Councilman, I'd really appreciate
I
it.
think they're all
Thank
the
you.
same.
Yeah. All right. And then I'm also going to talk about a proposed amendment that is based upon the conversations that we had with the divisions of assessment and licenses, along with a clerical change in the ordinance. So first, once you see I have two tables for you from the data that we drew. First is the total declared nuisances from the period of 2019 through 2024. The total amount you will see is 26 total declared nuisances in that 5-year period. In 2019, there were 9. In 2020, there were 8. 2021, there were 6. In 2022, there were 2. In 2023, there was 1. And in 2024, there were 0. They are broken down by ward, so you can see if the ward is not listed, that means there were no nuisances declared within that period of time. A nuisance is declared, just for your information, after the 4th nuisance activity.
Mr. Chairman,
What?
just a point of clarification, why don't you have Ward 1 listed here?
Mr. Chair? Well, I'll put you down for the line of questioning.
No,
Okay.
it's a quick question, Mr. Chair,
Okay.
point of information,
Go ahead.
because he's talking about the subject matter.
As I said before, that means that there were no declared nuisances in that period of time.
I got a problem with that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we'll
We'll
have you
address
down,
that at the-
and we'll get in the answering. Keep going.
And there were questions about the payments. We did, with conversation with divisions of assessment licenses, they were sending out abatement invoices, and those that were not paid were then certified to the county. That occurs once a year in September for all the amounts, so it's not on a rolling basis. So as you will see, that the total invoice in 2019 was $800, in 2020 was $900, in 2021 it was $600, in 2022 $0, in 2023 $600, in 2024 $0. I will point out that there was only one occasion in that period of time where a $500 fine was issued. The data is not kept by ward, so I wasn't able to break it down by ward.
Okay.
I can answer questions about the data unless you want me to continue on with the.
Well, what I
conversation
want
with
you to
Division
do as
System
well,
License.
besides the data, I want you to be able to tell, because the viewing public doesn't have the legislation in front of them.
Right.
I want you to explain the concept of the nuisance legislation, because I was the co-sponsor of it years ago. And I will say to my colleagues, one of the concerns which led up to this legislation before us is that I had been speaking to the safety director, Director Drummond, about my growing concerns that I felt that the nuisance laws were not being enforced in the city of Cleveland. And I expressed those to the former safety director and administration and within the Division of Police as well. And I wasn't getting anywhere. And so I want to thank Director Drummond for listening to my concerns, which I was reflecting on behalf of my colleagues and the citizens of Cleveland, that we passed this nuisance law to deal what we refer to as the house from hell on the street, or the neighbors from hell, that are causing all kind of problems, and we're getting constant complaints, and we're turning them in, or a drug house, or whatever the case may be, and we were not getting the results that we wanted. So again, I want to thank the director for really jumping in this, and you as Assistant Safety Director, Jason, to take this under your wing and look at the areas of concern. And what's clear in the data is that the nuisance law was not being enforced in the city of Cleveland. And I want to thank the director for acknowledging that and saying we're going to fix it. And that's why we're here today. So continue.
Thank you, Chairman. Just as a little bit of history, the nuisance ordinance was originally passed in 2006. At that time, it established a nuisance definition and only had a 30-day time frame in which nuisances, where you would need 4 nuisances within 30 days in order to be declared a nuisance. That was amended in 2009 to extend that day to 60 days, then in 2016 to 12 months, and then back to 2018 was when the bigger changes occurred, which I believe Chairman, you and Donna Brady did your initial fixes, which changed it to a 6-month time frame, introduced civil fines,
Yes.
and removed the misdemeanor charge, which, if I understand correctly, was because that was nearly impossible to
That's right.
prosecute, in that a lot of these properties are owned by LLCs, which made it difficult to find the individual responsible for the property. Now, what we discovered through looking, so there, I want to clarify that this ordinance is based entirely on criminal nuisance activity. So this isn't that somebody's not keeping up their house or the paint is peeling off or the porch is in disarray. This is for criminal activities that occurred on a property, and those nuisance activities are defined in section 630.01. Now, the issue that we ran into was originally, as written, the ordinance said that to be a nuisance activity, a criminal conviction is not necessary. Now, according to general rules of statutory interpretation, is that if you specifically list something and leave out other things, it is kind of deemed as purposeful. So the divisions, I think rightly so, interpreted that, well, because you don't need a criminal conviction, it doesn't say you don't need a citation. It doesn't say you don't need an arrest. So the division kept going forward as counting something as a nuisance activity if there was a citation or arrest. And that created issues because all of these, except for what I've added to the 2920, the drug offense violations, are misdemeanors, which are lower level priorities for the division of police, which would mean by the time that an officer arrived, the nuisance activity was complete or finished. There was no witness, the officer did not witness it. There are certain lower level misdemeanors that in order to make an arrest, an officer does have to witness that crime occurring. This seeks to solve that problem, again, by adding to the definition to be a nuisance activity, a criminal conviction, citation, or arrest is not necessary. There must be probable cause to believe that an activity occurred, and that I added in here, or the department added, a member of the division of police may rely on a witness statement or statements to find that there is probable cause that a nuisance activity occurred. Again, probable cause legally, that burden just means 50% plus one, or more likely than not that a nuisance activity occurred. And I'm going to provide you one example that I think would be of interest to council. Under section A6, any littering violation under 613 of the codified ordinances is considered a nuisance activity. One of those is 613.14, owner to maintain premises free of litter, which states that the owner, occupant, or person in control of any private property shall at all times maintain the premises free of litter except that which is contained in receptacles for collection. So, as you are all aware in your neighborhoods, you have a home or a property that could be vacant or not, that is, people are dumping litter in there because some owner out in North Carolina or Michigan or Canada isn't checking on their property, and people are using it as a dumping ground. Now, previously, to make an arrest or citation on this would be nearly impossible because those properties are often owned by LLCs.
Right.
Well, this will allow it to count as a nuisance activity just based on the officers witnessing or seeing the litter on the property, that there is probable cause that owner to maintain premises free of litter occurred, and that could count as a nuisance activity. Just to note for members of council, there are due process requirements built in that anybody that receives a declaration of a nuisance or a fine can appeal that directly to the director. If they don't like the director's decision, they could appeal that to the Board of Zoning Appeals. So there,
On the point,
yeah, sorry, Chair.
Mr. Chairman,
What's the point?
Mr. Chairman, is it baked in here? Because we might have to look at maybe amending it if it's not.
No.
For those property owners who constantly park, and what I'm talking about in preference here is junkyards. They're parking their cars on the sidewalks. They're parking them on the tree lawns. Their oil is all over the place. They're working in the streets
Thank you.
and the curb line. So
Okay.
would that be a part of this law here, Mr. Chairman, to the director?
Mr. Chair, to the councilman, you don't even have to, that, right now, that's an illegal act.
I know it is,
Yeah.
but they ain't enforcing it.
Okay.
But we need to make it a part, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, we
Okay.
need to make it a part of
Thank you.
nuisance so we can also give them fines and violations as well, both ways.
Thank you, thank you.
So is that in there, Mr. Chairman, to the
well,
director?
To the chair,
Director.
to Council Member Jones, as stated by Council Chair Polenzek, that is a criminal offense. A citation could be issued for that, but as stated by Assistant Director Shatner, it's not necessary. But in that particular case, if there's a call that's made to law enforcement, in particular, the Cleveland Division of Police, and the citations issued, that can go towards that nuisance that we're talking about with this particular ordinance.
So that would help, Mr. Chairman, for clarification through the safety director. So you're saying to me that we can have this double hit as well? Because I've called several times, Mr. Chairman, to the safety director concerning these issues to numerous commanders.
Okay. Councilman, I'll put you down.
And I don't see this kind of activity, Mr. Chairman, in other areas.
Through the chair, to the council member, I do not believe currently that is one of the offenses that's considered a nuisance activity. I will state that I believe that the original nuisance activities were occurred for things that occurred on a property, like a property owner's own bad acts or lack of being able to secure their own property. I think you may run into some issues, especially with the parking on the sidewalk and things like that. If it's, you're going to have a lot of property owners start policing their own sidewalk if somebody they don't know is starting to park on there. But in terms of somebody treating their own lot as a junkyard or something like that, I could check if that is in the littering ordinances. I don't know. But if you, you could look through the ordinances that are listed under 630.01, section A1 through 18. And if it's not in there, it is council's prerogative to propose an amendment to include that as a
Thank you,
nuisance
thank
activity
you.
or
Let's
not.
continue, then I'll open up for questions.
Mr. Chairman, the distinguished lady,
Councilman, I will put
Councilwoman
you on
Jones
the
House,
Okay.
is wanted to get your attention.
Thank you. No, thank you. Continue.
Okay. In terms of making sure that when this, if this is passed, that there is capacity in the city to enforce the fines, we did have a meeting with the Divisions of Assessments and Licenses. For council's information, the procedure that takes place is once we get to that fourth declaration, that fourth activity, and we decide to declare the property as a nuisance property, we send a packet down to the Division of Assessment and Licenses with pre-addressed envelopes and a letter. Division of Assessment and License creates an invoice that then sends it to the property owner, which is defined in the ordinance as who is listed in, under the county and the property records in the Office of the Fiscal Officer.
Yes.
Then, if that is not paid, they certify it to the county in September once a year. One thing that they said they have no issues with this. One thing they will have to change, and it's an easy fix, is they'll have to go into their Acela software to create invoices for, because we added a fine for $100 a day if a property owner does not provide a nuisance abatement plan within 10 days. They just need a way to create an invoice for the $100 a day.
Okay.
That shouldn't be a problem.
Anything else?
One other thing, we do have several amendments to the legislation based on our conversations with the Division of Assessments and Licensing. What we learned, and I think with a conversation with the chair at the last committee meeting, was there was this idea of a $100 fine. There is no $100 fine in the ordinance. What occurred was there is a calculation necessary for nuisance abatement cost. Since 2006, that has been charged flatly as $100. It's very burdensome and difficult, but not impossible to do the cost as defined in Division C. We want to fix this issue by making it discretionary whether or not to charge an abatement cost. So essentially, if the juice is worth the squeeze, the division will do the calculation and charge that on top of any fine. We also then, in lieu of a guaranteed abatement cost every time, we do want to add a $250 fine for when you are declared a nuisance property.
You have an amendment?
I do have an amendment drafted. If any of the members of the committee want to propose it, the proposal is to strike the words "shall" in
Okay.
2 sections to make it "may," to add a $250 fine, and to add that essentially that fine could be appealed.
Mr. Chairman,
to
where
add
is
the
that
new process
located
requirement.
to the distinguished gentleman on the legislation?
Section 630.02.
Thank you.
Before I read the amendment, the administration is proposing an amendment. That's going to be passed out right now. Yeah, they're coming down. They're coming down right, because that's why I'm going to wait until everybody has, then I'm going to read the amendment. But before I do that, to the viewing public, I want you to walk through a scenario, because I just had one in Glenville. Neighbors, individuals living in a house have no respect for the street, no respect for the neighbors, garbage in the yard, parties, drinking all night, blasting music, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to go through a quick exercise. So the neighbors call, as they have been doing, on Maple Avenue. You go to the house, police go to the house once. The next week or a couple days later, they go to the house again. A couple days later, they go to the house again. Take us from that point, what happens?
At that point, there would be the third nuisance activity, and that triggers, let me pull the ordinance up, that a notice that the property may be declared a nuisance on a fourth activity. So that notice will,
And who sends that notice out?
the Public Safety Administration sends it out.
Okay, we'll go out. Okay.
And it includes that every statement within the notice is a lawful order. It includes a statement that the premises owner shall respond to the Director of Public Safety within 10 days of the date of the owner's receipt of the notice with a written plan to abate the nuisance. If they fail to do that,
Okay.
within 10 days, they get fined $100 a day until they do send the abatement plan. Now, if a fourth activity occurs within 6 months of that third activity, but 13 days after that notice, that's when the property gets declared a nuisance.
And then that's when the fine is levied on the property taxes?
They get an invoice for a $250 fine. Additionally, they could get abatement costs on top of that fine. And if they do not pay that fine in September, that gets certified to their taxes.
Okay. Because I look, 2 good families moved off that street because of these
right.
fools that are living there.
Right.
And I'm done with it. I'm done with them. I can't, these were great people, lived there for a long time, put their kids all through Glenville High School, and then these fools, absentee landlord, run into these dirt bags, and then that's what, it got chaos on the street over there.
Yes, Chairman. And Chairman, if I may, this will also prevent the problem with the officers showing up and then the tenants turning off the music and them not observing any activity. They would be able to speak with the person who made the report, determine whether or not that person is credible, and use that as a probable cause determination that a nuisance activity occurred.
Okay, thank you.
For clarification.
What's clarification,
I
Counsel?
just want to make sure I understood what you were saying correctly. You're saying after the first, second, third time, then on the fourth time, there's the nuisance is issued?
Correct. It's the fourth activity the nuisance is issued. It's declared a nuisance.
Okay, I will add you to the list. Let's go, I'm going to read the amendment.
That needs to be amended right there.
Okay, in section 1, at section 630.02, in division A5, strike line 2, strike shall, and insert may, M-A-Y. Number 2, in Section 1 at Section 630.02, in Division B, Line 8, strike shall and insert may. Number 3, in Section 1 at Section 630.02, in Division D, Line 6, after provided, insert if the Director of Public Safety or his or her designee declares the property a nuisance pursuant to Division B of this section, then the property owner shall be charged $250. Number 4, in Section 1, in Section 630.02, in Division E, Line 5, after abate the nuisance activity, insert a notice charging a fine for being the owner of a property that has been declared a nuisance property. I've read the amendment. Are there questions on the amendment?
Chairman, there's one
Okay.
more additional
Yes.
amendment that,
Go.
in conversations with the Department of Law, it's in Section 630.02, in Section A, Division A, line 1, 2, 3, is to strike occasions and insert calendar days.
And that's another amendment.
That's another
Okay,
additional
well, I'm
amendment.
going to deal with that. You don't have a handout on that?
I don't have
Does
a
your
handout on
assistant
that.
law director have that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we have there's a question on the amendment. Councilman Casey, and then we'll
Mr.
start the tape.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, to our our assistant director.
Yes.
Who determines the difference between may and shall? Is it,
It's a,
is it, no, I know the difference between may and shall. What I'm saying is that, is it the police officer that shows up? Is it the administration? Is it you? Is it the director? Who determines that you may do it as opposed to you shall do it?
through the chair to the council member, this provides the director discretion whether or not to charge the abatement costs.
Yeah, say to the chair, to Councilman Casey, and that's correct. It gives me, the public safety director, discretion whether or not to charge that individual. However, the officers are going to do their jobs. They're going to respond to the calls for service, determine whether or not there is a nuisance there. And it's also important to note and clarify that just because someone calls law enforcement to respond for a nuisance, that's not a nuisance in itself. It's just the activity that's taking place there, and obviously the officers will have the opportunity to talk to witnesses and so forth. Before, just talking to witnesses was not sufficient, but the amendments, the ordinance now gives the officers that added ammunition, so to speak. Once it's declared, it comes to the Department of Public Safety, the director in particular, who then has the discretionary power to decide whether or not to impose that fine.
Right, and Mr. Chairman, to the
Yes.
director, and that's kind of my issue with it, right? Either we're going to do it or we're not going to do it, right?
That's right.
So I don't always think about who's sitting on this side of the table and who's sitting on that side of the table, but I think about who's going to be here in 15 years or 20 years or whomever, right? So the difference between may and shall could be, what if there's an individual who is sitting in the director's chair at some point and they just don't agree with it, right? And then they can do it or they can't do it when, as opposed to you shall do it, the legislation just tells you this is what you got to do, right? As opposed to leaving it up to, and again, Mr. Chairman, to the director, that's not a knock on you, that's just, how it is, right? I mean, how do we know that it could be a second cousin of the director who's getting the call? Do you know what I'm saying? And favoritism starts being shown, and I'm not, again, saying that comes out of your office, but, that's the type of things that I think of as, so if we're going to do it, I think we shall do it, right? We may not do it. That's just, thank you.
Through the chair, just real quick, if I may.
Or you shall.
Or I shall. Well, I shall if the director.
Through the chair.
Thank you.
You shall speak.
I shall speak.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. When we do something, we want to do it right, and we want to do it according to how the ordinance is written. Even if it has not been done necessarily correctly in the past, we want to make sure that we have the capacity and able to do it correctly in the future. By requiring the cost of abatement in the way that the cost of abatement are required to be calculated, because it says shall be determined based on the time required to respond to the nuisance activity, multiplied by an hourly rate based upon the wages and benefits of a police officer, dispatch costs, vehicle and equipment costs, and supervisory and administrative costs. The hourly rate may be adjusted based on the number of police officers required to abate the nuisance. That would, by the plain language of the ordinance, would require Sergeant Lanton in this case, to investigate how many officers reported, how long they were there, what was the pay rate of those officers at that time, the vehicle, what was the mileage for the vehicle to get there from the station, and that would be at the rate, of course, at the federal reimbursement rate for gas, how much it would cost to dispatch, how much vehicle repair for the period of time that it was sent, and administrative costs. I guess that would just be the cost of us handing the paper down to Division of Assessments and Licensing. In the past, that has been flatly decided to be $100, which, even with the changes in salary, this was still $100 since 2006. So by putting may in there and replacing a fine, they shall be fined $250. So every time they're going to hit that fine. The abatement costs, though, I believe will come into play in cases where things were so extreme that the division had to expend so many resources that this is a hammer that we, at that time, would need to do.
Okay, Councilman? Okay, Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you could explain what you have on,
We're on the amendment now.
I know
Okay.
that we are. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm concerning section, I think it's page, you gave me this printout 4. Can you explain that to me, why that change has to be put in place?
Whoever can,
The fourth one about since we're adding a fine, we have to add, through the chair, we have to add a corresponding ability to appeal that fine. That's why that addition is made.
I see.
It's in the appeal section.
And that's the appeal for the actual citizen, correct?
Yes, the property owner can appeal any fine or certification of funds to the county or any declaration of a nuisance activity, property.
See. And then, Mr. Chairman, kind of not so, only due to the fact that when I look at the numbers here of your previous enforcement, I agree with the chairman that you are not enforcing the current law. So it doesn't give me, even though we're doing this exercise here now, and it doesn't give me, Mr. Chairman, when we look at may and shall, any kind of confidence that we'll do anything here with this.
okay.
Through the chair, sorry.
Go ahead, because I think,
Because it's not going
we're
to
gonna
correct
say
the
the
issue,
same
Mr. Chairman.
I know, but besides,
And Mr. Chairman, the most important thing here is that, first we got to enforce the law we got.
okay. Any, I have Councilman
So
Jones.
I'm
the
on a
amendment,
point,
there-
on this amendment
I'm-
here,
I'm
I
gonna
just
ask
want to
first,
register that I'm not, I think it should stay shall, not
Okay,
may.
Okay. Any other questions on the amendment, any other member? So you want to respond before I call them?
Yeah, through the chair to the council member, I would respectfully disagree about the division and the Department of Public Safety not enforcing the ordinance. We were enforcing the ordinance as written, which is why we are changing the ordinance so the intent of the ordinance can be effectuated. There were too many things or instances of things that we believed were nuisance activities, but according to the ordinance, because there was no citation or arrest made, just statements and just our belief that it did happen, that wasn't enough, according to the ordinance, to be defined as a nuisance activity.
Okay.
This would allow us to actually effectuate the ordinance as intended.
Okay,
In
thank you.
terms of, Mr. Chairman, the may and the shall?
The may and shall,
Because that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And what you're saying, Mr. Chairman, doesn't make sense on the may and the shall.
for the may and the shall, we can If it's council's desire for us to do the abatement calculation for each one correctly, we will do it. We just saw the reality of it not being done in the past, and it's based on the reality of the time and intensive labor it takes to come up with a nuisance abatement cost as required under Division C.
So, Mr. Chairman, then how does that explain, Mr. Chairman, what you just said, that you change it to may, which gives you an option, and shall, you should do it, and may, you have an option to do it if you want to. So it seems like that it doesn't make sense what you just said to me based on that.
Director?
Through the chair to Councilman, it's the may and shall is relative to the abatement itself. There is a fine of $250 that's going to be there regardless. That's a shall, but the may and shall language, well, going from shall to may, gives the public safety director the discretion whether or not to impose the actual abatement, the nuisance abatement, which is $100 per day. That's where the go ahead.
The
Jason.
abatement costs, the may and shall provision only has to do with charging the cost to abate the nuisance.
Not the actual fine.
Not the declaration of the nuisance, not the instituting of a fine or anything following up on that. We just saw the realities of the actual enforcement of the ordinance and the administrative task that it took to do the nuisance abatement calculation, that we believe it should be in circumstances that are that warrant that calculation.
And through the chair, and again, as Assistant Director Shadner stated, if it's the prerogative of the council, obviously, to not agree with that. It's just, again, we wanted to have that discretionary
I can't hear
ability
the
through
director, Mr. Chairman. He said the prerogative of who? If I
council,
can,
city council.
City council?
Yeah, to
Okay.
decide whether or not that, we'll accept our
what is-
recommendation.
So, Mr. Chairman, then what is the prerogative of the officer who goes out there? And does he also have the may and shall? He may enforce it, or he shall enforce it, or just a decision on the fine, Mr. Chairman, for clarification, comes to the director, who then will decide if he shall enforce a fine or may enforce a fine.
Director?
Through the chair to Council Member Jones, the amendment that we're putting to council has nothing to do with the responding officers. The responding officers are going to do their job and get the information relative to whether or not there's a nuisance that's taking place at the property. When we're talking about the discretionary abilities that comes to the Department of Public Safety and the Director of Public Safety in particular, that again, may have, again, based on the amendment, if it's approved, if it's added, based on the amendment, will give the Director of Public Safety the discretion whether or not to impose the abatement cost.
I see.
Thank you.
No further questions,
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman
Thank
Starr,
you.
and then we're going to make a roll call. Councilman Starr?
Thank you, Chairperson. I do want to make sure for correction, did you read into this legislation, the Second Amendment?
No, we did not.
Okay,
We're
so
gonna
we still
just
on
deal
that.
with the first one here.
All right, I'm just wanting to make sure.
Okay.
Just for clarification, when in regards to this, my direct question would be, through the chair to the table, would be, what is the actual end goal for this amendment? Just for clarification on why we are making this amendment and these changes to this ordinance. Obviously, we know it was dated back to 2018. Today, we have a lot of different things that have strike through, and I know we had a presentation, I think around the 26th regarding this. So my question would be, what is the actual end goal for this change, and what is it supposed to do for the issues that we deal with nuisance? Through the chair.
Through the chair to the councilman, just for clarification, are you talking, is the council member talking only about the amendment or the entire ordinance changes?
The entire ordinance changed because something was passed in 2018.
Right.
And now we're looking to amend this with different parts of it. So my question is, obviously you made some amendments for a reason to bring it up to date, I guess. But what is the actual end goal for, once these amendments are passed, for what's to be the long-term effect? Because I think of the pros and the cons to be able to understand exactly what we're actually trying to do here, through the chair.
Yes, through the chair. We brought these four changes because when the public safety director came in and saw the low numbers of nuisance property owners, properties that were declared nuisances, you could come to two different conclusions. Either that nuisance properties aren't a problem in the city of Cleveland, or that something's broken. So we took a look at the ordinance and realized when our sergeant, who's in charge, has to make the determination of whether something qualifies as nuisance activity, from the plain reading of the ordinance and the rules of statutory interpretation, it was the policy to see, was there a citation or arrest made? By the time officers came to the scene when a nuisance activity is reported, typically the nuisance activity is over. So there's no one to arrest, there's no one to cite. So this makes a change with the intent, because already written into the statute was that you only have to find probable cause that a nuisance activity occurred. To determine probable cause, you can typically use witness statements and the officer's own experiences and investigation. This allows those calls that come in, like for littering, for noise, loud mufflers, people doing drugs on the front porch and things like that. This allows the officer to make a credibility determination of the witness of whether or not there is probable cause that that activity occurred, and therefore the hopeful result is we'll be able, when we get those calls in, we'll be able to hold property owners accountable for allowing these activities to occur. Another thing that this solves is a lot of times it wasn't the property owner or someone they invited to the property that did the nuisance activity. So we added person associated with. So that means someone that just happens to be on the property or is trying to enter the property. Because you have a responsibility. Let's say your property is vacant and you didn't put a fence up, you don't put cameras up, and people are just using it to do, revving their cars or doing drugs in that vacant property or throwing trash in that property. This, with the requirement of nuisance abatement plan after the third activity, we could say, yeah, we know you didn't do it. We know you didn't invite these people to do it, but you have a responsibility to put a fence up, put some cameras up, maybe hire a security guard, because the Division of Police is not going to act as your personal security guard for your property. And so that puts the responsibility on the property owner to protect it. So that's what we hope to see happen, is to be able to declare more nuisance.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We've heard discussion on the amendment. We're going to move on this amendment. They're going to move quickly on the second
You
amendment.
didn't put me down?
Pardon?
I thought you was putting me down, or that was just for a point.
That was for the point on the amendment. You had questions on the amendment?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, on additional with the question that I had on the amendment, thank you, Chair, would be the fact that this fine of $250 dollars. Is that low enough or is that high enough as you compare that to the other cities with the same ordinance or the same legislation in place of accountability? What I'm saying is, through the chair, putting it at $250, okay, say for instance, I'm an out-of-town investor and I got a whole bunch of properties in the city of Cleveland. Okay, it seems as if we're going out there 3 times or 4 times before an actual citation actually goes to them, and then actually they just pay the $250 and then nothing else is done. What would be the next steps to get them in compliance? Because the end goal is not just to fine people, we want them to take care of their property and make sure people have a good, safe neighborhood to live in. Because, I mean, if I got money and I'm buying properties and I'm flipping properties or they're from out of town, just paying $250 is just on cake on the dollar until they get their big payout, until somebody else possibly get it. So my question is, what do we do if we got like repeated offenders? Because if you went out there 3 or 4 times, to me, and based on from what I learned from our last hearing, we have a small team that is actually doing this work. But then at the same time, you spend 3 or 4 times going after one property. Think about how many nuisance properties that have yet to be reported in the city of Cleveland, and think about the amount of houses that we have that needs this type of accountability. So I'm just saying, is $250 is going to be alarming to somebody, or is they going to wake them up? Is there other steps that we're going to take to get them in order to make sure that they are doing their job to the
So
chair?
I can do it
explain to the council, that's the first
Right. Through the chair. First, I would say it's not a small team. What happens is the division of police, the patrol officers go and to these nuisance reports or to these crimes that are defined as nuisance activities. The small team is the ones that pull the data and see like, oh, that they've been there 3 times, they've been there 4 times, they've been there 5 times. This is partly based on Cincinnati's ordinance. So we want to get their attention through the notice of your property may be declared a nuisance. So after 3 times, you have to create that abatement plan. If you're an out-of-town investor, that means you got to pay you got to figure out what's going on. You have to write down a plan on how you're going to abate it, and you got to send it to the director. Director's got to approve it. If you don't submit that plan, that's $100 a day.
Yeah, see, that's-
A day. That could be, I'm not good at math, $365,000 you don't do it in the year? So, and if you don't pay that, that gets certified to your taxes. So it's not like, oh, I'm just not going to pay it. It's going to be on your tax bill, so you will pay it. The $250 is in line with how the escalating fines are. So before, on the 5th nuisance activity, it's $500. Then 6 is $750. And then on the 7th, it's $1,000, and it's $1,000 for each subsequent one. So 8, 9, and 10, each, it's going to be $1,000.
And to that same part, stand on the amendment, Chair. I'm just thinking that why 3 or 4? I don't think we have in this city, we should be waiting 3 or 4 times today. Defined as a nuisance property. That's right. And what I mean by that is I have residents in the North Broadway, Southwick Village neighborhood who sends me messages every day about board ups, people finding dead bodies inside of these properties, and nothing has been done to get these properties down or get anything in compliance. So if one officer went this month and one go next month, and we go to 3 or 4 times, I'm thinking it still is not going to rectify the situation. I think with your plans and your intentions on how to go there is right in line on what we need, but I think we need to be more proactive and say, hey, after the 2nd time that an officer had to come out here, you should be receiving that letter regarding this issue. The first time, you might go out there and you may find that it may be somebody in town, and you're like, look, we just have a conversation. And on to that point, if this legislation is passed and amendments go through, what is the actual communication tool that we're going to get out to make sure the people know that we're not messing around no more? The city wants to see you clean up your properties. Your neighbors want to be able to have their kids live in this neighborhood, but they don't want to have to deal with this building or this door just sitting here. You haven't did no renovation. You haven't invested in this property. Doors getting kicked in. Windows are opened up. And next thing you know, it's nothing done until we get to that 4th or 5th time deeming as a nuisance property. So my question to the chair is there a way that we can amend instead of that 7th time to make it to say the first time you was getting a warning, 2nd time we let you know that is a nuisance and the letter then went out, and now we go through that process. And also for that point, because I'm a wrap up, Chair, because we want to.
Yeah, because we're still on the amendment.
Because on that
but
amendment,
he's on a good point.
on amendment
Let's
within
the point to
that
straighten it out.
amendment, Chair.
Councilman, through the chair, okay?
Within that amendment, Chair, you do know New York City has, property owners can face a fine up $1,000 per day for failing to address nuisance conditions, such as illegal dumping, graffiti, and building code. Los Angeles has the same thing, where they range from $250 to $1,000 per violation, as well as Chicago, $1,000 per day of code violation, and $3,000 per day for violation related to lead paint hazards. So what I'm saying is we also have Houston, who has a $500 per day for code violation. Philadelphia owners can face up to $300. What I'm saying is we
Okay.
should be aggressive and assertive in this approach. We can't be
Thank you.
lackadaisy. We have to make sure we address this issue so we can make sure our neighborhoods are more safe. I'm
Thank
tired
you.
of Southwick Village finding dead bodies in these homes, and nobody can find them, whether they're from Cleveland or out of town. People are coming here and getting killed and getting dumped into our neighborhoods, which making it a bad issue. So what I just want to make sure, point of clarification is, do we want to wait till we get to that 3rd or 4th process, or do we want to be aggressive
Okay.
and assertive and get
Okay, we'll take that up in a minute. The amendment's before us right now. There's been amendment read before us. Is there someone has to introduce the amendment? I cannot do it as the chair. someone make a motion.
I'm not going to read it in, right?
We've read it already.
Do I have to read?
So move.
There you go.
Okay, and so all in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the second amendment, read it to, tell it, because it's just a small change. Yeah, what is it?
The other one is,
Okay.
I don't have,
Wait, that's what I'm saying. Give it to me.
I'll
Sure.
just tell you what it is.
Okay.
It's just changing that to calendar
Okay.
days, that's all.
We're just, okay, read it.
Chairman, I proffer amendment in section 630.02, under A, line 3, to strike occasions and add calendar days.
Okay, is there a second to that?
Thank you.
Second to that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So be it. Now, we're back to the piece of legislation. The thing that is before us right now, don't forget, this is the second time we've heard this. We're doing this because the administration in the past was not enforcing the law. And the reason, well, as we've heard, they said that there were provisions in the ordinance that they didn't feel were enforceable. But no one ever told us that. That's the problem. And I want to thank again the director for coming, looking at this in detail, and coming with these recommendations. The question before us now is, right now, it's the third, after the third offense. That's what the law department recommended in 2006, whenever we did this. I can't remember anymore. Who wants to comment on that? There's a suggestion made that that number be reduced. What are your thoughts?
Through the chair, I would first say that when we approached this ordinance as non-elected officials, we were just looking at fixes in order
Okay.
to enforce it. Now, in terms of discussing whether is 3 too much, should we do it sooner?
That's right.
I personally do not have an opinion on that. I don't know if the director.
To the chair, council members, I don't necessarily have an opinion on it, but I think you have to give folks an opportunity and give the law enforcement officers an opportunity to conduct investigations. Obviously, if the Division of Police continues to receive calls for service to a particular property, then obviously there's a problem, which is problematic, and that then a nuisance can be declared, obviously, and sent to the Director of Public Safety. But I believe 3 is sufficient. I don't think more than 3, but I think
No.
dropping it to 2, I think, is not sufficient to truly, in my opinion, to determine a potential nuisance
Okay.
property.
Okay, so if you've indicated that you support the 3 as it presently stands now.
Through the chair, I do. Through the chair, yes. From
Okay.
Director of Public Safety, yes.
Yes. Okay. Let's try to come to some clarification and wrap this up, because we have a large number of people here who want to come in and talk to us. Are there any questions as it pertains to the legislation as it stands
Yes,
now?
Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
Councilman Jones?
So, hold on before.
Yes.
Can I just, because I
Yes.
really want to interject.
Yes.
Can we either, and I'm either asking,
Yeah.
can we put a pause on this legislation till after the Neighborhood Safety Fund presentation?
fine.
Or move it, something has to happen, because all of these individuals that are in front of us, they work in City Hall.
I
So it's
understand.
nothing for them to come back here to actually present versus the people who have been waiting here an
Okay.
hour for the
There-
presentation. And I would ask respectfully, as Cleveland City Council members, to
Okay.
be a little bit, just
Yeah,
mindful.
I'm very mindful.
I know, because
So-
the question in itself could probably take another hour.
I
On
know.
the point,
So-
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so let me do this. We're going to pause, because don't forget, this is the second time we're hearing this. But the administration
Right,
and those of us in this council want this passed before summer.
Right.
Because that's when we're starting to have the problems already. So again, we're going to pause for a moment, director and administration, and we're going to bring up the presentation, and then we're going to resume. Because we have this, and we have one other piece of legislation that is through Case Western Reserve that we need to deal with today. So again, who is here from the Cleveland Foundation? Come on up.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome. And again, administration, please hang around. Who's in charge of that? Thank you for everyone's patience. And as the audience has witnessed, and the viewing audience has witnessed, the two things that you do not want to see made are hot dogs and legislation. You just saw half of the process here, legislation process. So again, I hope you understand how we do our due diligence on legislation. I want to thank all my colleagues for the questions that they asked. Okay, who is here to open up the presentation from the Cleveland Foundation or from the administration or whoever? Identify yourself. Push the button and pull it right up to your mouth.
Okay, how's that? Oh, very
That's
good.
fine.
Good morning. My name is Jason Weiner. I'm a philanthropic advisor at the Cleveland Foundation, and here today with my colleagues from the Cleveland Foundation, as well as members of the Neighborhood Safety Fund Advisory Committee, including members of the Safety Committee. And we are also joined today by a number of partners and grantees of the Neighborhood Safety Committee first two rounds of funding. And it is a pleasure and an honor to be able to report out on the activities of the committee to date. So thank you so much for having us. This has been a tremendous partnership that the contribution from the City of Cleveland, City Council, dollars into the Neighborhood Safety Fund has really supported a remarkable partnership between the entities around the table today and in the gallery today. Oh, that feels better.
Would you care to introduce all the other folks at the table, or would they introduce themselves?
Absolutely. Why don't we go down the channel, the
Okay.
side here.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. I'm Yvonne Pointer, a community member.
Good morning, Chair and Committee. I'm Sonia Pryor-Jones, Chief for Youth and Family Success and Advisory Committee member.
Yes.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Darlene Tony, Program Officer with the Cleveland Foundation.
Good morning. Ginger Malakar. I'm General Counsel and SVP of Philanthropic Strategy at the Cleveland Foundation.
What's your last name again?
Malakar.
Good morning, Chair and Committee. I am Habiba Rashid Grimes. I'm a community member and the CEO of Positive Education Program, best known as PEP.
Good morning, Chair and Committee. Marvin Owens, Southeast Side Senior Strategist, Office of the Mayor.
Okay.
Good morning. Trevante Rui, community member.
We can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Trevante Rui, community member.
Good morning to the Chair and Council, Director Angela Shue Woodson of Community Relations, and also a member of the Neighborhood Safety Fund.
Okay, good. Mr. Weiner, you care to start this process?
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question. Will the slides advance? I have. Oh, thank you. Thank you for that. So today, what we hope to. Oh, yeah, I actually would. Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge the additional Neighborhood Safety Fund committee members who are also members of the Safety Committee, the Neighborhood Safety Fund and Safety Committee. Councilwoman Stephanie House-Jones, Councilman Danny Kelly, Councilman Richard Starr. And I believe we talked earlier, and would you like to say a few words to set us up today?
Well, good morning, everyone. Basically, how did we get here? This really was based on, I would say, a partnership with the administration and council members, understanding that we really have to invest in, violence prevention and intervening when we know there are problems, and have a dedicated source of funds available to invest in community. We be through the conversations, understanding that this is the start, understanding the investment that is needed through all the research and the studies is really around $30 to $40 million annually. So, really starting to see this initial neighborhood safety fund is the idea where community members will get more comfortable with understanding, A, what this network is all about, bringing together the practitioners in the community who are really doing amazing work to transform our communities and help to people to be healed, restored in a way that is relatable and that we can actually see results so that people will have more belief and actually invest in the Neighborhood Safety Fund in perpetuity, regardless of administrations, regardless of people. We will have this fund here, a dedicated source of funds that can be into community. And as you will see in the presentation, to see that the need is very great and the dollars that we are investing are only just a tip of the surface of the extent of what we need to be doing in the city of Cleveland, but it's giving us some way to pull people together, beginning to invest in the professionalism of this industry, helping people be set up for success to go out and be able to advocate to get dollars to expand their organizations and to continue to doing really great work here in the city of Cleveland.
Thank you. And this, to the viewing public, again, this was a result of a $10 million contribution that Cleveland City Council made to the Cleveland Foundation, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So whoever wants to continue, go ahead.
Thank you. I'll just stick to the script here. So we do have committee members. We've introduced folks. Just a quick note that myself, Darlene, and Jordan are staff support for the committee, not actual members of the committee. But the rest of the individuals are here in the room today. I'll note quickly, too, that the individuals, the community members, have been appointed by the Neighborhood Safety Fund Advisory Council. The City Council representation were appointed by then Council President as per the language of the agreement, who is Councilman Griffin. And then the staff of the City of Cleveland have been appointed by Mayor Bibb. So I'm going to turn over to my colleague, Habiba Grimes, to talk a little bit more about how we got here and talk about some of the community context and violence.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Mr. Chair and Committee, I am going to share with you a little bit of grounding and why such an investment is so critical to our community. And I want to first just express gratitude to you for your leadership and vision in putting forward an opportunity like this and an investment like this. I mentioned that I'm the CEO of Positive Education Program, and I'm a lifelong Northeast Ohioan as well. I've been raising my family here in the city of Cleveland in the chairman's ward for nearly 20 years. And what I've learned through my lived experience, through my professional life, is just how significant the impacts of trauma and unresolved, unacknowledged grief are for our community members. And when I speak about grief, I'm speaking about systemic and structural problems that have impacted community members and resulted in traumatization that is leading to our challenges, contributing to our challenges with violence in our neighborhoods. I will name that there are some key areas that I'll speak to in a moment that I think this committee will understand. I appreciated the Councilman Starr's comments about the neighborhood impacts for unaddressed properties and what young people are experiencing in our community as they grow up is not just the incidence of physical violence that is occurring in their neighborhood, but a history of divestment in their neighborhoods, a history of segregation in our communities, and a history of exposure to toxins in their homes like lead that are impacting them in their development. And so when young people are developing, exposed to these kind of traumas, they're experiencing self-regulation difficulties, so their ability to manage their own emotions and behaviors, but they're also experiencing relational problems and challenges getting along with one another and with their family members, with their educators and teachers, with people in their neighborhood, with their peers. Those challenges are well documented in scientific research around traumatization. And what it requires of us is an address that is addressing the person's individual needs, but also the community needs. And these needs for address occur across development. So for young people in very early life, but also through adulthood. And the challenges that we see with traumatization in our neighborhoods are impacting young people across that developmental spectrum. I also want to say that we may have historically overinvested in punishments as opposed to compassionate interventions. And I'm grateful for the ways that this legislation and investment help us to bring together community members who have deep compassion and empathy for our young people, for their families, for their neighbors, that allow them to get proximate, get close to them. And even though there may be challenges in our neighborhoods around aggression or violence, those folks who are proximate to the problem bring the solutions. So I just want to thank you again, and I will pass it on to the next person.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Council Chair and council members, thank you again for this time today. I've had the privilege of coming before you in my daytime role to talk more about prevention for violence in our community. And I would just want to level set how we got here today as well is due to this council's investment and passage of Ordinance 486, as well as the ongoing conversations that this administration and several council members have been having with our community. That's residents, but it is also very much the men and women that are sitting behind us today, people who are actively involved in Cleveland Thrive, as well as those grantees who are receiving funding from the Neighborhood Safety Fund. And so I think it's always important to share the origin story. So often we forget it, and specific to the opportunity to come to you with the recommendation that you approve for Ordinance 486 were many conversations that we had with community members, leaders who are out in our neighborhoods every day doing all that they can to prevent violence before it even starts, as well as to intervene when necessary. And what we were hearing from these community leaders was several things. One, they were not collectively working together and really coordinating as much as they thought they could and should. And two, that the work that they were doing was not properly funded. And time again, they were running into scenarios where they might start something, they get some traction, and then dollars would go away. And so this fund is really about building a healthy ecosystem for violence prevention in our community. And when we look at other communities across the country like Newark, Los Angeles, where they've made heavy investments and they've seen progress over time, that is because not only is government doing this work, but government is partnering with community in reasonable ways to reduce violence in the streets. And so we know that requires good policy making, and we know that that requires money. We need money to support and sustain the interventions that are working in community. And we're very grateful to our partners who are here in the room with us that are part of the Cleveland Thrive Network, working together to reduce violence across our city. And we're also very appreciative of the partnership with City Council. So I will hand it over to the next person.
Thank you. Thank you. What's your point, Councilman?
I'm looking at the slide right now. I know that you have like 7 neighborhoods that you've designed. Then you have over in the Harvard area, Blue. Now, we got a lot of problems on Harvard Avenue in the Ward 1 area. So that blue area, is that a part of a strip that's a part of your plan too?
Who can
Mr. Chairman, to
briefly
the
explain
distinguished
it
lady,
before
Ms.
we
Jones.
To the chairman and through the chair to Councilman Joe Jones. That is included, but that map is specifically focused on Thrive, as I was sharing the origin story as to why we started this new fund. But the work of the Neighborhood Safety Fund, you will hear in more details in the rest of the presentation,
Okay.
is supporting communities across the city.
Okay, we'll hear from everyone else, and then we'll go into
Thank
the
you,
questions.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
to the distinguished lady.
Thank you. Who else wants to comment?
All right. So just quick, before we dive into some of the grant making that's been done, what I'd like to do is just give some high-level activities of the Neighborhood Safety Fund Advisory Committee. We have met monthly since September of 2023, focusing on this work and learning and investing these dollars. We've completed 2 rounds of funding. There was $1 million in December of 2023, and when the fund opened up, we heard the urgency about getting dollars out into the community. We listened, and we accomplished that goal. We were able to distribute $1 million, and we'll talk a little bit more about where those dollars went. And then 6 months later, we distributed an additional $1 million in June of 2024. So we have distributed a total of $2 million out into the community so far. We have also spent a significant amount of time on learning from our local and national experts in the space of community violence. So we've had crime trends presentation from Cleveland Police Department. We've had Maisha Watkins from Cleveland Peacemakers Alliance present, the Juvenile Justice Collaborative, Tony McCrae, and Shakira Diaz also presenting. So we're staying in touch at multiple levels with what's happening nationwide, what's happening locally, and letting the information and the data drive our decision making.
Thank you.
I'm going to share the mic with Darlene now.
All right, Chair. Thank you. Again, I'm Darlene Toney, Program Officer with the Cleveland Foundation. And as Jason mentioned, we released our first RFP and funds in the winter of 2023. The Cleveland Thrive Partners helped us identify our funding priorities, which focus on mental health and community building approaches to healing. And community approaches to healing. As Habiba mentioned, trauma is
Ms.
prevalent.
Chairman, can I ask the distinguished lady if she could please be so kind to put her outside voice on?
Put my
or
outside
pull the
voice
mic,
on?
Yes, or pull the microphone up closer
Okay.
so I
Okay,
can
go
hear
ahead.
you.
Okay. All right. And as Habiba mentioned, trauma plagues our community and is generational. We also supported survivor and victim supports, mentoring, which would involve gender-based interventions, as well as social and emotional skills development, safe passages, which outreach workers in community around schools, both before and after. We also focused on K-8 and high school intervention and prevention activities, which included academic enrichment, supporting increased educational attainment, out-of-school activities, which were arts, STEM, and sports, and also employment and job readiness. We also supported re-entry programs for both youth 13 to 17 and young adults 18 to 34. And I will say that when we released this RFP in the winter, we had no idea the number of organizations that were actually working in community to intervene and prevent violence. So as you see, we had 150 applicants who submitted with $13 million in requests. We were able to fund 29 organizations with $1 million, and I think you guys do have a list of the organizations, the neighborhoods, and the wards in which they work. The grants were unrestricted. They were general operating to help organizations build their capacity to do the work. As Councilman House Jones mentioned, many of the organizations did not have the resources or the funding to do the work at scale, and so this fund was supporting that. During the process, we did have time to get to meet our organizations through community and advisory, the foundation staff and core VIP staff to engage with them and learn and build collaboration for shared resources. There are learnings from the first round of grantees that shaped our priorities for the second round, in which Angela Shute-Woodson, Director Shute-Woodson will share with you.
To the chair and to the committee.
Just a point of information on the grantees. Do you, I don't know if we have the dollar amount that was given each group. Do we have that?
It was sent, I have a copy of it
Okay,
as well.
okay. Because yeah, no, wait a minute, let me see. Yeah, okay. We're gonna, can we get up?
It's on your tablet.
Because I don't see it, that's what I'm saying. Wait a minute, hold on. Wait a minute, we're going to try to find it, hold on. It's, yeah, you said it's on the handout here.
It's on the tablet.
Okay, it's on, it's better go on screen because you can't read this print, it's very small. Okay. Okay, we've got it now. Thank you very much. Proceed, thank you.
To the chair and to the committee, in round 2, which was 2024, there were 71 applicants submitted, which was a request of $6.5 million, which you have in the slide. And there was a focus of 1%. Recognizing after the first round, we needed to do a deeper dive. We talked about just the interruption and reduction
Yes.
of violence that's going on in the city, as well as what could we do around diversion and proactive mentoring, as well as overall prevention, before we even get to the interruption and the diversion pieces. So additionally, with research and training, we focused priorities around the justice-involved youth coming out of the different systems, as you've heard me say many times at the table from my own department standpoint, as well as looking in schools and trying to work closely with our schools, youth, the high absenteeism, and the disruptive behaviors that happen. We prioritize programs and check and connect models and building relationships with families and schools and employers. So these are some of the participants you see behind us that are working in this work, as well as coaching and case management. As I've said at this table over and over and in among the community, we have to treat violence as DSW Designer Shoe Warehouse, where you have many different brands and many different sizes. That's the amount of services we have to appeal to the community and this animal of violence that we're dealing with in our city. So as you see with the many of men and women behind us, this is just a part of that fabric, of that warehouse of brands and different services that they're applying in our neighborhoods to help us with this problem.
Director, because I want to call, I was going to call you Ange, but because I've known you so long. But Director, are any of the groups in the funding round one, and any of the groups in funding round two, are any of these agencies that you're adding funds to as well? Is there any duplication?
With the groups from round one and the
Yeah.
groups of round two?
'Cause
Actually,
you are funding groups through CRB, so.
correct. So, no, there aren't any duplications from what I can see in the round two group. No, they're not.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, who's next?
Oh, actually, there is one, but it's a total separate project. That's Renounce, Denounce, but they're also on a grant that's through my office with a total different service area and services that they provide for my department.
Okay, so if you can provide that to me, I'd appreciate that. Thank you. Who's up next? Okay.
Okay. We do have some grantee partners here that will share some of the impacts of how these funds have impacted their organizations. But for an overview, again, the funds were general operating, which were unrestricted dollars that help organizations build their capacity to do their work in community. The impacts that were made, organizations were able to solidify their infrastructure, meaning moving volunteer staff to paid staff, able to recruit and train additional staff. They were able to purchase equipment and supplies necessary for service delivery.
Yes.
They were able to eliminate barriers, purchasing vehicles to pick up and drop off their clients. And they also were able to support stipends for increased participation. What we've learned from our grantees, you'll see, is that they need fund development. Many of the organizations have never received grant funds before and don't know how to diversify their funding. Many of them were just doing it out of the passion and out of their pockets. So the support they needed was fund development, how to communicate their impact. Many of them are doing impactful work in community, but just did not know how to tell their stories. Networking, they wanted to network within their neighborhoods and outside with like organizations just to build collaboration and shared resources. And then also marketing outreach, making sure that community knew about their programs and services and how clients could find them. So the foundation engaged with Janice Smalls and contracted with her actually to work with the organizations through a professional development series, which I believe you guys also have that list of the professional development topics in front of you, and also the cohorts that are participating. Do we want the organizations to talk about their impact now or at the end?
Yep.
However you want to
To
do
the
it.
chair, yes, we do have several folks who are ready to talk about.
Okay.
You
So.
want that now? Okay.
Okay.
So we'll call up the Nerve DJ Institute first.
Okay. As they're coming to the table, all the groups that you have outlined have received their funding.
Correct.
And so the The other question I ask at this point, who actually monitors the group to see what they're doing?
I would say the advisory committee, we do site visits, and they also turn in reports to the foundation that we review and analyze.
Okay, thank you. Okay, introduce yourself.
I'm trying to get my mic on.
That's all right. You just, here.
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
My name is John O. Horton Jr., better known as DJ Johnny O. I'm a lifelong resident of the beautiful city of Cleveland, and I run the Nerve DJ Institute. So far, we have done classes at Warrensville Heights, East Tech. We've done 2 graduating classes from the Juvenile Detention Center, and our next class is hopefully starting next Tuesday with the Neighborhood Safety Funds for 15 students.
Do you focus on a specific neighborhood or area of the city?
The whole city.
The whole city?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Because you mentioned Warrensville.
Yeah, that was a different,
Okay.
that's a straight-up contract with Warrensville High School.
Okay. And you believe the funds have helped you in your operation?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you.
Well, we requested one amount, but we didn't get it, so.
Okay.
But the funds that we have is going to put 15 students through our program. And the way our program works is, this will be a 5-week program. We're going to do 15 students, 5 weeks. We feed them. We teach them for 3 hours. We feed them, then we take them back to their homes.
And you teach them what?
We teach DJing, podcasting, music production, and radio broadcasting.
Okay.
And we're getting our funds together to build a recording studio in our establishment.
Okay.
We're in the old Ohio Technical College airbrush building, right on 51st and St. Clair.
Okay, I know where that's
Yeah,
at.
yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the committee? Then we'll move on. Sure. Oh, yes, Mr. Stark.
Through the chair, to one question I will have, I know you've been inside of East Tech. Have you been able to make use of the digital arts recording studio that's located at East Tech?
No, sir. We did teach in that studio for the East Tech kids, but the equipment they had was outdated. So everything we have now is brand new, up to date. All the computers, everything I purchased over the last, I've been DJing for 48 years, so I got a lot of equipment. And my main thing is for people to see our establishment because it's such a great establishment. The facilities is on the second floor. It's 14,000 square feet. One side we have an entertainment center where we can raise money, so if we don't get a grant, we still have monies coming in.
Yep.
And the other side is 7,000 square feet. That's where we do the teaching. We have a broadcast room, we have the DJ room, and then we have the production room where they do radio broadcast, music production.
Okay, thank you. I know we have a lot of the folks here.
Yep.
Any other questions? Thank you for coming to the
Chairman,
table.
I have a
Yes.
question. Where you're located at, Mr. Chairman?
5100 St. Clair.
Okay.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, how much would it cost if we wanted to sponsor a kid or two in your classes?
Through this program, the next class is $1,500 a student.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, who's up next?
Thank you.
Through the chair, I just wanted to acknowledge that there was a young man who was a participant of the program who was sitting there,
Yeah,
and
he
I
was.
think in all of the
Yeah, let me-
busyness that was forgotten. So
Okay.
Yeah, let him
just
speak,
wanted to
Mr. Chairman.
give him a quick opportunity, if it's okay, to introduce himself. and
Introduce
share.
yourself, young man.
My name is James Clark. I'm a former student from DJ Nerves. I graduated. I did a little bit of everything, but I was, but both need best at beats because, that's what I was there for. As I moved on there, as I kept on going, I just got better, and I think that's just the best one for me.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to the table. You're welcome. Thank you. Who's up next?
Thank you. Good job.
Okay.
Couple people coming.
Come on up. Who's ever coming to the table? Introduce yourselves.
I'm Gwen Davis. I am President and CEO of Icons.
Hank Davis, Executive Director of Icons.
Joe Rule Davis, Project Analyst of Icons.
Thank you.
Hold on, Mr. Chairman. Hold on, Mr. Chairman. Say your name.
Go ahead.
Tawan Lewis.
How you doing? Doing good?
Push your button so we can hear you.
Xavier Hawthorne, Youth Liaison to Icons.
Okay.
Bobby Shepard, Icons representative.
Thank you. Okay. Who wants to lead off? Who wants to?
I'll start off.
Okay, go ahead.
I want to thank everyone, the city and the Neighborhood Safety Fund for helping us and our organization. We use the funds to further grow our program, which operates within K through 8 schools in Cleveland. We're in 5 schools, but with this, the funds from this round of funding that we got last year, we were able to pay a lot of people who have volunteered many hours for us over the years. So it allowed us to be more consistent with the kids and being with these young adults year after year in their school, and they're seeing us and they're being comfortable with us and sharing with us. And what our organization does is we go into schools. We are there as a support system for the teachers and the educators, and they know they're able to refer students to us if they're having troubles with fighting, bullying, conflict resolution, violence, etc. And what our organization does is assign mentors. We work with kids outside of school and in school to assist them and help to resolve their issues. And it also allows the teachers to teach the rest of the community without a lot of interruption. So they know we're in the school regularly throughout the day. So I do want to thank you guys for funding us and allow us to be a consistent force for the schools.
What 5 schools you working in?
So we are at FDR. So within your, on the southeast side of Cleveland, there's FDR, Hannah Givens, and
FDR, Hannah
we'll let
Givens.
Hank
Okay.
Go right into the names of the schools.
Okay. Hank,
So yeah, we are at
push the button.
Push it hard.
Okay, and bring it up. Bring it right up. Go. There you
Get
go.
all the way up.
Yeah, bring
Okay, that's right. Yeah. Don't rip it out now. Just. Okay. Okay, there you go. You're fine.
All right. Yep.
Go ahead.
So we are at Hannah Givens, O.H. Perry, FDR,
FDR. 3.
Euclid Park,
Okay.
Memorial. I just went up to Memorial actually.
Okay.
But the main schools we've been at is Euclid Park, Hannah Givens, FDR, O.H. Perry.
Okay.
there's one
And
more.
so you're in the K through 8s. Are
Yeah,
you
in the K through 8s.
Any high schools at all?
No.
No.
So we're doing prevention. And so the high schools, in our opinion, are intervention. And so 7 years ago, we understood that it was a need to reach the kids at a younger age. And so we started the prevention program at Hannah Givens first 7 years ago. And the young man that's sitting at the end right there is Tawan Lewis. Tawan Lewis, when I first got him, he was like 10 or 11 years old. The funding for us has helped us to continue to help the kids and help the community. And so we've been able, every summer and every year and to this day, we're able to give him money for work projects. He's able to help us with the senior citizen that we do at the 5 Point Community Center. And then we have people in the room now that's part of Icons. Can you stand up right quick, a few people? I just want to say something. And so we have people like Mr. Davis here. He does East Clark for us. He works the parking lot. He's not really inside the building because of the high theft. And so he's monitoring the parking lots for us. He floats to different schools at times also.
Yep.
And we have a few other people that's volunteering that we find ways to try to give someone money.
Yep.
Everyone, people have bills to pay. So
Sure.
this fund has helped us a lot when being able to help people to pay their bills.
Okay. I went to Hannah Gibbons, so. Hannah Gibbons Elementary School. Don't start on me, okay? Briefly, what's your greatest challenge in the K through 8s?
Greatest challenge is the parents, I believe. The greatest challenge is, one of the greatest challenges is the parents, trying to get the parents, because we are still waiting for parental consent forms to be signed. So, I thought you wanted. Yeah, so one of our challenges is that. Other challenge is more funding. Funding is a challenge for us.
The parents are not engaged, or parents are a part of the problem. I know in some schools,
Not all parents.
Some of the parents are going at it, come into school and go at it, but
Yeah, not all parents.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Some parents, they work, and sometimes it's kind of hard to get in touch with them. For the
Okay.
Yeah, but also some parents come from, they can only do what they only have the tools they have. So they can only give what they can give. They may
Okay.
not know how to do certain things.
Okay.
And so, yeah, the funding is a part, because even though we do have more people that can work for us, and we appreciate all the funding that we are getting.
Okay.
When it comes to, organizations, funding is going to always be issues.
Okay, yes.
I'd like to also say that we are addressing a lot of the problems and issues that I believe the doctor spoke about earlier as we encounter children who are experiencing the results of violence and grief, and they are, and it's not addressed. We see it come out in the classrooms. And so we are blessed to be there as a resource for the teachers, where if they're seeing students who are dealing with the results of trauma and ongoing violence in their environments, because we know that we've seen decreased violence across the city overall and throughout the state and the United States, to be honest with you, and our murder rate is low, et cetera. But in some of our environments in our neighborhoods, it is not continued throughout,
Well,
so they are still dealing
I'm
with
going to
it.
ask you, and I'm going to ask, I should have asked the previous speaker, but I'm going to ask all, to tell us if there's a school in the city, a K through 8, that you think is doing it right on the inside, and or a high school.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned Memorial, I go there all the time, and I think they got it together.
Yep.
You got a staff that's got it together, but now there's other schools that don't. So I'm trying. So Ginn Academy, where I'm on the board, he's got it together.
Yeah.
Ted Ginn has set a tone in that building
He has.
like I've never seen
Yeah,
anyplace else.
absolutely.
And I keep saying, if Ted can do it,
Yes.
why can't that be duplicated across
Everywhere.
the city? I keep asking myself that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask everybody. So if there's a school that you think is doing it right, or the administration in the school is doing it right, then you need to tell us what schools those are. Same with the high schools, okay?
Yep. And so if I have to say one other than OH Perry, I would say Euclid Park.
Okay.
Euclid Park is amazing. On the inside.
staff?
Yep, on the staff, on the inside of it. So for the most part, what is at Euclid Park, they ask us to watch the park when the schools get out to make sure ain't no fights.
Okay.
And so we go into the building, Mr. James Holder, standing by the door, he does Euclid Park. And so he goes in to check any issues concerned with the principal, but spends most of his time outside with the youth in the
Okay.
parking lot going home.
Okay, thank you. Okay, who's up next? Thanks, Hank and team. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Davis. Thank you. Okay, who's up next? Identify yourself.
Civilians Against Violence.
Okay.
Greetings.
Okay.
What up, Doc? How you doing?
Reverend Dr. Stokes.
How y'all folks doing?
Doing
Happy
good.
to see y'all. New Sardis received the Neighborhood Safety Fund. Greetings to the committee. Thank you for the finances. I owe you an email. To you all. Huh?
Good morning.
Morning. So, New Sardis received the Neighborhood Safety Fund finances last year. And we were able to actually hire you to actually do work in the community. We worked with Councilman Joe Jones. I got some of my students from Ward 5. And we were able to not only clean the community, we were able to, the youth were able to paint abandoned, maybe not abandoned, but paint things in the community
Yes.
for seniors. It not only showed them the importance of them and their community, but it also allowed us to teach them soft skills that they don't necessarily get, they don't necessarily have. So when I say soft skills, how you interact with people, how you show up to work on time, you make a schedule, those type of skills, we were able to teach that, do some mentoring as well. So much so that after the program ended, we were able to give each one of the youth, we had 12 youth, each one of the youth $500, each one of them afterwards. And not only that, we were able to hire them back between last summer and now a few times for them to come and help and do some more stuff around the community. It has been a very enriching opportunity. It has been very helpful, and it supports the community. We are glad that we were able to do this, and we are striving to do it even now.
even in the next round. And we're just working really hard to make sure that it's happening.
Okay.
So, any questions?
You're working in the schools?
Yeah, I'm a teacher.
Okay. So, what schools got it right, do you think?
I taught for many years in Ward 5 at Marion Sterling. Marion Sterling is like a hidden gem in CMSD. They do a lot of good work.
Okay.
So I would say Marion Sterling is getting it right. Gann Academy is definitely getting it right. So I know those two for sure.
Okay. Thank you very much. Briefly, Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank Reverend Dr. Stokes for his work in the neighborhood and the community. And when we talk about safety, Mr. Chairman,
Okay. Say it again.
when we talk about safety, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
we realize he does a great job. He is called in and had huge community meetings at his church as it relates to safety. He's brought young people, older people in the neighborhood together to deal with the multitude of issues. He and his church has sponsored cleanups on Kinsman Avenue, and they've done a wonderful job since he has taken the ram there at the church. We appreciate his leadership, and we thank you for all the service that you provide to our citizens. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, to Reverend Dr. Stokes.
Thank you, Councilman Jones. Okay.
We have just one more.
Okay, one more, then Councilman Casey has a question and a concern.
I'm the founder of Civilians Against Violence, also a federal chaplain and apostle. We was funded this round where we never been funded before, so the foundation giving us a fund that really helped us. We've been up since 2019, coming out of my pocket, just using everything that we had to be able to do the work in the community, which we do multiple things. I run a boxing camp with 120 youth in it, mentor program. We feed the homeless. We give to the homeless.
In what neighborhood?
All over Cleveland.
Okay.
Yeah, all
Okay.
over.
Thank
So, we really focus on trauma too. So, because I'm a trauma intervention specialist.
Okay.
What we do is try to, prevent the different things that go on if someone has been shot, someone has had any violent criminal situation. What we do, we go out to them. We do after programs concerning their, their well-being and
Yes.
different things like that. So.
Okay, thank you very much for coming to the table. Okay, who's up next? And then Councilman Casey has a comment to the Cleveland Foundation. Okay. Yeah. Okay, introduce yourselves at the table, and welcome to the table. I want to say this to all who have attended today's committee hearing. Don't be strangers. City Hall is the people's house, and it's open to everybody. So our council meetings, our committee meetings, we welcome people to come in, because all of us have found around the table here, many of our residents don't understand how City Hall functions, the separation of powers, the role of the council, the role of the administration. So again, you're always welcome to come in and partake and listen. And we always have a public comment, as we're having now. So again, I just wanted to say that for the viewing public as well. So who wants to lead off the group here?
I can. Thank you for that, Councilman Polincic.
Thank you.
Well, the name of our organization is called the Safety Unit. We service the Mount Pleasant Kinsman communities.
Okay.
We started off the program by finding out what middle schools, we wanted to focus on middle schools as opposed to high schools because we wanted to catch them early.
That's right.
We found out which schools in that area had issues with violence and things of that nature. We contacted the school's administration and we asked them to give us the list of the most problematic young men in that community that attends those schools.
And they were able to do that?
And they were able to give us the list of those young men.
Okay.
We started our program this past summer and we named it the Academic Boot Camp. So those young men attended the library on 131st Street and we serviced them with mathematics and reading comprehension development. After that, we worked on some calisthenics and we did some community service work throughout the community. The young men that were able to complete the program were compensated for their time, energy, effort. After the summer program, the academic boot camp, we began to service young men in those schools, the same young men, because we wanted to have follow-up service and some continuity, as opposed to just cutting them off after the summer months. In servicing those young men, which were about 27 young men, the school added to the list, and we ended up servicing over 100 young men throughout the school year.
From one school?
No. The schools were Jameson Elementary, A.J. Rickoff Elementary, Citizens Academy Southeast, and Miles Elementary School.
Okay.
So we would attend each school one day out of the week. And the school would allow us to come and service the young men during their lunch periods. So they would bring their lunch trays to a classroom in which we mediated the children, the young men, with conflict resolution and conflict mediation skills, basically on how to resolve conflict without using violence. So we did some data collection, and we found that through our efforts, the young men's suspension rates decreased dramatically. They began to come to school on time. Their tardiness and everything, it was a major turnaround in their development. And the school administrators are excited to have us back in those schools.
Wonderful. Anyone else would like to comment? Yes. Identify yourself.
My name is Kareem Smith. I am the lead coordinator for the safety unit. I actually live in the Mount Pleasant area. Most of the schools that we service is schools that I attended as a child, so it was a full circle moment for me. I just want to say that I brought some guys here that want to help support the cause, and because we need to boost up our staff. We have got a lot of requests for us to get back into the schools and provide programming. We were able, with the funds that y'all provided us, we were able to furnish our facility in the heart of the Mount Pleasant area on 135th and Union. We call it the Safe House, and kids can come there after school, and we provide mediation, tutoring, and conflict resolution. We just did a programming yesterday with about 10 to 12 boys from 3 different schools. It was a great program. We fed them, and we plan on doing it every day after school.
Wonderful. Any other comments from anybody else there? Okay. Thank you. Councilman Joe, you want to just mention, because...
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank you all for the wonderful work that you're doing. It's really good to hear about what you are doing, but then what's more important is the impact and knowing that it is making the difference for our young people.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the work you do.
Okay. Who's up next? We have anyone else up next? One more, and then we have a question. Then we're going to open up line of questions, general questions by the members, because I have a question and concern as well. Introduce yourself.
Good morning.
You're good.
Oh, I don't have
Good,
to-
yeah, you're right.
I'm good.
Good.
Good morning. My name is Michelle Bell. I am the founder and CEO of Impact Cleveland and the champion of the Together We Rise Coalition. But today I'm standing in for Spread the Love Foundation. I have a letter that I would like to read from them. Okay. Good morning, Cleveland City Council members of the Safety Committee. Although I could not be present for today's Safety Committee meeting due to travel, I felt very compelled to share a story of transformation, one that embodies hope, resilience, and power of community support. It is a story about the Neighborhood Safety Fund grant and how it has served as a seed money for the Spread the Love Foundation Interest to Income Music Production Program at the Cuyahoga County Juvenile Justice Center. When we first launched our program in 2024, we did not know just how impactful the program would be. The youth at the CCJJC were struggling, often feeling hopeless and facing a harsh reality that left them with deflated self-esteem. Many of them had lost their way, feeling trapped in a cycle of negative behaviors that seemed insurmountable. But with the support of City of Cleveland's Neighborhood Safety Fund grant, we were able to provide these young individuals with an opportunity to discover their passions through music production and to be inspired onto more positive pathways. As the weeks passed, we witnessed a remarkable transformation. The youth who once arrived with their heads down now walked in the classroom with curiosity and excitement. Students not only created original music and were exposed to career options in music production, but also learned teamwork, the power of collaboration, and other transferable skills. As a result, correction officers were the first to notice a change in behavior outside the classroom. The youth were more respectful, more eager to learn, and less prone to acting out. They did not want to miss the interest to income class, which demonstrated to CCJC staff that they were interested in their own growth. Parents felt too the impact. We received emotional feedback from them expressing how they had never seen their child up like this before. One parent shared as she wept at her son's graduation ceremony. Parents spoke of the visible changes in their children, how they were becoming more encouraging, not just to themselves, but to their peers as well. The youth began to uplift one another, fostering a sense of community that had been absent before. The Interest to Income program has not only provided a creative outlet, but it has also equipped our youth with the confidence they need to envision a bright future. The support from the Neighborhood Safety Fund was the catalyst we needed to ignite this change, and the results have been nothing short of inspiring. As we continue our work, we ask for your support in ensuring that programs like ours receive funding they need to flourish. During these times of uncertainty, nonprofits need the vital support of the City of Cleveland to continue on-the-ground mission work. Together, STLF believes that exposure to the size of a mustard seed has the power to transform lives, to make Cleveland a safer place by creating the conditions for all members of the community to thrive. We thank you, Mayor Bibb, the City Cleveland Council, for your support and for believing in the potential of every young person in our community. Sincerely, Aussie May Neal, President and CEO, Spread the Love Foundation.
Thank you. Is that program working any specific school or schools?
Juvenile detention.
Juvenile Detention Center
Okay.
is what she said,
There, but-
CCJ.
okay.
Yeah, the Calhoun County Juvenile Detention Center.
On that point, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Jones.
Do we have, Mr. Chairman, to Dr. Darlene, Tony, any other programs that focus in on juvenile detention and helping these young people, giving them hope and inspiring them?
We do writers in residence inside the Juvenile Detention Center, and also Peel Them Layers Back.
Who?
Peel Them Layers Back and the writers in residence.
Okay.
They also work in Juvenile Detention Center.
Okay. And then how many children, Mr. Chairman, or young people, Mr. Chairman, to Mrs. Tony, is being served?
Within the Juvenile Detention Center?
Yes, ma'am.
You know, I don't have that number right off the top of my head.
We'll ask for that.
Yeah.
We'll ask
Thank
for-
you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. Thank you for coming to the table. Sure. Okay. Who else do we have here?
Yeah, my name is Demetrius Williams. I'm the executive director, Beat the Streets Cleveland. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization that does youth development, mentoring. We teach kids how to wrestle. So we use the sport of wrestling as a tool to engage the kid to ultimately create quality young men and young women of the future. I got a couple of my guys here. I want to let them share, but Robert Bradford and Anthony Spooner, I want to let them talk real quick. I know we got limited time.
Okay. Brief, introduce yourself and tell us what you're doing. Just push it, get the green light up, and pull it up and close.
While he figures
Push
that
it
out, I'll
hard.
introduce
Okay.
myself. I'm coach, head of mentoring and coaching. My name's Anthony Spooner. And this journey has been a passion of mine, being myself and Demetrius being the only two salaried staff. Everybody else we work with stipends and,
Yeah.
and the volunteers and being able to give to them.
Okay.
One of my most profound moments recently is been driving a lot of these young men and women to their first college visit. Being that person that that they can get that transportation from. And we currently have over 20 student athletes that we assisted in their enrollment and knowing the application system and understanding FAFSA and just being as familiar with what they're stepping into as they can be through our experiences in those situations.
And what schools are you working with?
Oh, that's
I am Robert Bradford. I'm mentor coach as well, and also a parent of a student that actually went through the program. So I came in as a volunteer, and I worked at FDR, Marion Seltzer, Friendly Inn Settlement. Ben Franklin. We've worked in approximately like 10
And this
schools.
is a wrestling program?
It is a wrestling program, but we focus on mentorship through wrestling.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, so just real quick, I'm gonna let you go. So as a result of the neighborhood safety fund, we was able to provide a safe place. We have our own facility on Broadway in the Ward 5 neighborhood. Councilman Richard Starr.
Okay.
We have a provider space, a 10,000 square foot facility where kids come after school where they learn, grow, and excel every single day. On any given day, you can have 30 to 40, 50, 60 kids. Some days, 100 kids in the facility, either doing homework with tutoring, wrestling on the mat, training, maybe socializing, maybe talking to some of our mentor coaches about just whatever going on in life. It's an amazing experience. In 2024, we were actually able to do a college tour trip with like 40 kids. Okay. We took them kids to University of Michigan, we went to Niagara Falls, Cornell University, and Boston University for a summer. We were able to provide a safe place for them to kind of get out of their comfort zone. So we try to provide opportunity to increase their possibility. This summer we actually plan on doing another trip where we're going to Pittsburgh, Penn State, Lock Haven, Delaware State, and University of Penn. So we're trying to create opportunity for our youth, and all our programs are free.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming to the table. You know, I was just going to say, and sitting here in my observation, and as being here as long as I have, what I'm hearing at the table and what I've been reading is that we, with the safety fund through the Cleveland Foundation, that we've had to provide a lot of programs and initiatives that were traditionally in the schools.
Yes.
That have been stripped.
Absolutely.
And
Yes,
the things that I took for granted as a student in CMSD, the athletics, the music, all these other things have just been stripped from our kids. And now we are in a situation where we're having to provide that programming. You know, we had wrestling programs, we had music programs, we had all this stuff in our schools, vocational, technical programs that have all been taken away from us.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I keep asking myself, you know, why? Who made these decisions that we're in this situation today where our kids don't have these opportunities, and yet we're paying more taxes than ever before for public education? So I think as we have these discussions, and I'm glad we're having them, we've got to really figure out how do we create linkages with our schools? How do we get more kids involved in these programs? We've got a lot on our plate. But again, I want to thank you for coming to the table. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, Cleveland Foundation will come back. Yes, sir. You had a question? Yes.
No.
Yeah. Oh, you had a question? Somebody had a question down there?
These are two different people.
Chairman, I just want to make sure before we wrap up, we do give Trayvonte an opportunity to speak because he is a community member and he's on advisory committee too. So can you wrap up with him? That'll be the last before we go into that.
Questions for the Cleveland Foundation? Yes, identify yourself.
My name is Vince Evans, and I'm an outreach specialist for the Cleveland Peacemakers Alliance.
Okay.
We received funding from this as part of a collaborative grant with Metro Health, and it enabled us to hire a full-time position at Metro for a hospital responder. And what that means is when someone is shot in the city of Cleveland, if they're taken to Metro, we have somebody on staff with an office there who can talk to them. And basically, most of the shootings in Cleveland, a lot of the shootings in Cleveland are retaliatory. So it's that person's job to be in the hospital when someone is shot, to talk to them. We don't care, it's not my job to detect what happened or who did it. It's the person in the hospital's job to talk to them and see what happens to make this the last incident. So do you need resources? Do you need housing? Do you need education? What does it take for you to leave this hospital with a new lease on life, basically? What do we have to do to put in place for you so we connect them with the resources? And because of this and the collaborative effort with Metro, we're able to do that with the guy who's there full-time to deal with everybody who is shot in Cleveland, whether it's in Metro, we already had someone in UH, which are both of the trauma centers. So that's what we were able to do with that particular fund, that particular grant.
Mr.
Well,
Chairman,
wait a minute.
I have a question
Okay,
for the-
no, on that point, I thought we funded folks, we funded the folks at UH, correct?
To the chair, we haven't funded anybody. We did that previous years. When I first got in the role as executive director, we did fund Cleveland Peacemakers Alliance.
We don't have anybody at UH anymore?
As to the chair and to the body, as you know, UH has also been around their own kind of restructuring. So I think his name is Dr. Barsdale, had left with his program that was there. So they've done some cutbacks a little bit around this program.
That's interesting. Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Councilman.
Yeah, I just think that what you shared is wonderful. So we have it at Metro Health. What other hospitals do you operate out of? And then the next question would be to Mrs. Mr. Chairman, to Darlene Tony, do we have any other operations like this similar to what Mr. Evans has brought to us this morning from Reliance?
Whoever wants to comment.
So for the first question, we do have a hospital responder in UH. It wasn't funded through this.
Okay.
We have a full-time person there as well.
Well, that's what I'm trying to understand, because I didn't know who, we funded something. Was it through Peacemakers for the UH?
A lot of things are above my pay grade, sir.
Okay. Well, then someone needs to explain that one to me, because we gotta have somebody at UH.
Again, I think just.
There is.
There is.
There is.
We
I
do
think-
have
But
someone.
I think this is the other
It's not
thing.
funded.
Again, the people that were coming today were specifically talking about
Yeah.
how the neighborhood safety fund
Right.
that we did and the projects they are. As it relates to other programs, one of the things that you will find is that our investments are only for a year,
Correct.
or only for a summer, or only for a
Yeah.
season. And that's one of the projects, and what we have been hearing is people say, well, I thought we funded that. It's the funding is needed on an annual basis. A lot of times, many times the legislation and the work that we're doing, we're funding a program for a moment in time, not in perpetuity. And that is one of the
Thank you.
reasons why we have created the Neighborhood Safety Fund, to keep it on community members' mind. This is work that needs to be done on a revolving, continual basis, and we need much more investment and participation outside of Cleveland City Council to make sure that this work is being able to done 365 days. And so we wanted to be able to highlight this literally life-changing work with our small investments, right? But and really trying to build the capacity of our small organizations that do mighty work so that they will be able to tell their story, be put into a position that they will then be able to attract resources well beyond what the public sector can do.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, any other comments from here? Okay, Cleveland Foundation, questions for the
But,
Cleveland.
Mr. Chairman, the question is still on the table. Do we have anyone else that goes into our medical facilities?
We just heard
we
there's
heard him
there's
talk about
somebody
two.
at UH.
But the next,
And currently, the Peacemakers Alliance is working at both UH and the Metro Health Center.
so do we have, that's it? That's all
That's
we
it.
have?
And
That's those
the
programs?
Neighborhood Safety Fund funded the person that is at Metro Health.
I see.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Because those are the only two trauma centers that
Correct.
we have. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, go ahead.
I was just going to say, lastly, we just want to talk to you guys about our next steps and our round 3 considerations. Now that we have gotten to know many of our grantees and the work that they're doing in community, and also have learned from our national partners who have seen decreases in violence within their own communities, we are thinking about prioritizing violence interruption and diversion, which Trevante, who is our young adult advisory member, who's going to share with you.
Yeah, okay.
Well, good evening now. Good afternoon,
Hold the
everyone.
mic up.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Trevante Rui, and I'm here to talk to you guys about bridging the gap between generational differences there is. There is strength in numbers, there's growth in wisdom, and there's perseverance in youth. If we are providing guidance, sharing knowledge, and nurturing minds, our differences shouldn't divide us. Instead, we should focus on guiding my and future generations to bridge the gap between different generational cultures and ideas. Mentorship and mental health play a huge part in that. When I was a lost kid that traveled to Georgia on his own with just his mother, I didn't know where to start. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know how my life was going to end up. But the guys that I had around me, my older brothers, I like to call them, they mentored me so well. They gave me all the guidance and knowledge that I needed to be prepared in my future life. And it helped me avoid mistakes, and it helped me to become a better man for my younger brothers to be a mentor to them. The mental health piece, mental health it's inside of all of us. You know, we all have our traumas, we all have our problems and issues, and whether or not we are able to get through them is on us. We have to be able to be there for one another to support each other through these problems because we all have similar problems. And the workforce situation, I believe that my generation isn't too quite fond of work because they don't know the beauty of it. They don't know the beauty of hard work, and that just goes back into mentorship. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Okay. Cleveland Foundation is back up at the table. So we hear that you're going to continue to monitor the programs, the agencies. Are all the agencies that have received funding, are they nonprofit?
Mike's on. Yes, the funds go to all nonprofit organizations, and if they are not nonprofit, they have a fiscal agent who is monitoring their funds.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Casey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman to the foundation. I think the work that's being done here is yeoman's work, right? I don't think, as long as we impact any of the youth and turn them around in a positive manner, that it's money well worth spent. My question is, we've been hearing a lot about everything in the schools, right? We're doing a lot of work in the schools. But I also see of the 43 organizations that were funded, only 4 of them are working on the west side. And in my ward, I represent the educational corridor. So on West 140th, from Lorraine to Puritas, we have over 3,000 kids who attend school in a 2-mile radius right there, as well as the Rockport Library, which is the most visited Cleveland Public Library in the city. So my question is that if we're just working in the schools and we haven't gotten into certain schools, what of the organizations can get to those kids not being in the schools when they're not connected to the organization, to the school, and we're losing them, right? So they're going home or they're going wherever, and if these organizations or these entities aren't in the school or they don't know about it, how do we educate the kids that we have in the schools where these programs are not, that those kids could actually benefit from, but they don't know about it because any of the organizations, and if you want to answer, that would be great, because
Yeah, I talk about this point a lot. Nowadays, the world in my generation revolves around social media. So to get them to listen, their favorite content creators and influencers, that's all they're going to listen to. If they were to see you on the street, they wouldn't know what you do.
right.
But then they wouldn't know that you would be a great mentor for them. But these people that they are watching constantly, the NBA players, the football players, these are guys they want to be involved around and want to learn from. That's kind of like, what worked for me.
Right, but for example, Mr. Chairman, to the table, we have kids that will just say Artemis Ward, right, who could benefit from a lot of these programs that are. How do we get those kids, involved in these programs that we're funding and that we're helping, to change the lives of these kids, but just because they're going to a specific school? I mean, I don't know if we need some broader, maybe this comes from the foundation, right? Some broader one-stop shop for all these kids where, Beat the Streets Cleveland. If a kid wants to wrestle, but he's going to Garfield and he can't get into Beat the Streets, but he's a wrestler and he wants to do that, how do we get him connected with that? Or, I didn't know, anything about Ohio Rise. I have a skill set that I could help Ohio Rise, right? I mean, I didn't even know about it. How do we get these kids more involved with these these are all great organizations, right? And they're all out there basically for the same reason, and that's to set our youth on the right path. But how do we become an umbrella, right? Instead of just having everybody out there little one-offs at themselves that these families, our kids, our families can just stop somewhere, go to a site and say, I want to get involved here. It doesn't matter where I live or what school I go to, I want to get involved and I could benefit from this program. So, this is all great, right? But, this is all just, it's like trying to move the stadium to Brook Park. You don't have the arteries for it, right? You're not going to get there. How do we get these kids, how do we get all this together, so that if a kid walks in and says he wants to DJ or he wants to wrestle, he's able to stop one step.
So on that point to the foundation, is somebody looking at the city as a whole saying, how do we make sure that no area of the city is left out from programming? And then secondly, I'm going to take it a step further. As I'm looking at your chart here, there are two groups on here that say they're working in Collinwood. I don't know anything about them. I don't know anything about
What
them.
was the second question? I'm sorry. I was on the first one. What was the second part of your question?
To me?
Yeah.
There's two groups on here that are working in Collinwood. I don't know anything about them.
Yeah, so I would take the first question. As we talk about, one of the things as we have been engaging in the work for the Neighborhood Safety Fund, as we've been talking to industry experts, one of the things that they have highlighted is there needs to be a focus of targeting. We have a finite amount of resources, and using the information that has been provided from the Department of Public Safety, this is the reason why the administration and the Neighborhood Safety Fund has beginning to focus on select neighborhoods. The select neighborhoods were identified through information and the data that was provided from the Department of Public Safety. So as people are saying, we need to focus on the whole city, we need to focus on the west side. And the cases that we have identified is based on the data. We are utilizing data to drive our investment so that we can actually have real impact in the highest identified needs. As we know, there absolutely are problems and challenges all across the city, but we have to start somewhere. As we've indicated, we have a $30 million annual problem, but we're only committed $1 million. We're only 1/30th. Literally, this fund is doing 1/30th of the necessary investments. And so we cannot go all across the city. We have to be strategic so that the limited dollars that we have can be having an impact. Hopefully, we'll be able to work with other partners to get to the actual $30 million that is needed annually.
Okay, thank you. So the Cleveland Foundation, the data that Councilwoman Stephanie House Jones alluded to, where does that data come from? Who provides that data?
To the chair, that data, there are different data points, but specifically the crime and violence data was provided by the Cleveland Police Department, Public Safety, and all of that data, as you all now know, is public data on the data dashboard.
Okay, so you're specifically, the main priority is juvenile-related crime?
Actually, to the chairman, when you look at the data, it tells us that it is 18 to 33-year-olds who are actually engaged in the highest volumes of violence in our city. And so we know we need to do more there, which also ties to another point I'd like to make, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
And that is some of the work that we're able to fund is also based on the expertise that we currently have in community. One of the things that we've been learning through national best practices and people who have been succeeding elsewhere is just because an organization has a specialty does not mean they belong in every neighborhood. So much of this work is also not just built on only your capacity to do the specific line of work that you might do, whether that be mentorship or street outreach, but also the relationships that you already have built in community, because that means residents and people in that community are going to trust you and engage with you. And so Cleveland has a problem when it comes to having enough money that the councilwoman presented, but also how do we make sure we do the proper matchmaking with the right skill set and the right relationships for each neighborhood.
Okay. So can Cleveland Foundation, you're going to provide me what Renounce, Denounce Gang Intervention Program Corporation, what they're doing in Collinwood, and St. Kirk Circle, the Growing Space, Summer, and Healing Corner. Unless, you know, Collinwood's a big community, unless you're working in an area, but it says Ward 8. So I don't know anything about those programs. And so who monitors?
Laurent, he was just here, but because of the time he was up.
To the council chairman, I think one way to address this, you all have the list. Cleveland Foundation, the team here can make sure that some introductions are made.
Well, it's not, they're going to make the introductions, okay?
Pardon me?
They're going to make the introductions.
So your request is that they make the introduction?
Yes, because
and what I'm
we
saying
have funded
is
a program, and
we will make sure you have
I don't
that
know what they're
introduction.
doing in Collinwood. It's the first I see that they're working in Ward 8.
So to the chair, the committee and the foundation will
Okay.
make that introduction.
Okay.
If there are any council members who see a name of an organization that they're not familiar with, we can make sure that those introductions are made. And I would encourage you to invite them to meet with you, to come to one of your community meetings.
Yes.
I know we make those encouragements as well.
Okay, thank you, and I'll look forward to receiving that information from the Cleveland Foundation.
Well, no, I mean,
Okay.
again,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, to be clear, this information has been provided several times to members of Cleveland City Council.
We have the list.
No, I'm just saying, not before today.
Okay.
Every time organizations have been funded, it has been sent to Cleveland City Council members.
And we
when
have
we have
the
been engaging in site visit, that information has been sent
Okay.
to Cleveland City Council
Thank
members.
you.
We have members that are served on the Neighborhood Safety Fund
Thank you.
that have this information. And so again, part of today was just to
One
highlight
point
all
of
the
clarity,
work,
Chair.
Wait, listen,
all of
please.
the work that the
She has the
Neighborhood
floor.
Safety Fund has been doing over, the last year
Thank
and a
you.
half. So again, there is also a responsibility to engage in the work. And if they are seeing that there are relationships that haven't been had, I do believe that there's some responsibility on our offices to extend. And like I said, Renounce, Denounce,
you.
they were here in this room for 2 hours, and because of the time, they left.
Thank you. Councilman, you got a...
No, I just want to point of clarity. I am a member of the committee, but I have received this information. I have yet to say I have not received that information, so I just want to put that on record.
Okay.
That is not me, so
Thank you.
just for that point, so I don't know.
I'm sorry,
That's
you
it.
said you didn't receive what?
I said I
Through the chair,
received
through
the
the chair.
information through the chair, and I wanted to put it on record that I am not the one that is being referred to when you said members of the committee have received this information, as if I said anything. Just want to put that point of clarity out.
No, I was
Thank
saying
you.
Cleveland City Council
Okay.
members did
Thank
receive
you.
the information
Okay.
as far as the
Through-
announcements of who got funded.
Through the
Every member
chair.
of Cleveland City
Thank
Council
you.
received that.
Thank you. We have the list of who has been funded, yes, okay. To the Cleveland Foundation, any final comments? Wait a minute.
You're going to
Wait a
ask
minute.
questions from
Yeah,
the
but
committee?
before I open it up, did you have anything else to say?
Well, there's one more slide I'd like to just
Okay.
focus on through the chair to the table. Just a snapshot of the investment. So, this table up here shows that the initial investment of $10,100,000 was made in 2023. We made the two $1 million distributions through the grants that you have in front of you in 23 and 24. And the investment income over the past 3 years has yielded significant growth. This fund is invested in our money market pool. And you can see the growth in 23, 24, and so far in 2025. So the net ending balance of the fund is $8.631 million as of February 28, 2025.
So you're telling us you're investing wisely. That's
And we're proud of that.
okay, good. We're glad to hear that. Okay, I have Councilman Kelly, Councilman Joe Jones. Councilman Kelly.
Through the chair. Thank you. I just want to say that when you're looking at this chart here, it does look a little lopsided. But we're aware of that, and what we're doing primarily when we first started looking for youth to stop them from being at an 18 to 35 age, but it's data driven, and at 18 to 35 age is what became apparent in the areas that are suggested or where it's needed the most. It's not like any one area is not being looked at. We're aware of it. I've had conversations with the Cleveland Foundation because I am from the west side and we don't see a lot over there, but we're looking to capture the people that need the help the most and spread it from there. We are aware of it. I just don't want to think that we're only, like this time around, we have 4 wards, but that's where the need is. And we're just trying, just like when CMSD, one of the biggest problematic things is transportation. We're trying to work that out, whether it's the wrestling team or whether it's the DJ, how we can help get kids from anywhere over there. But the other problem that hasn't been mentioned is people have to apply. To be honest with you, I just didn't have too many organizations that applied that were in my area. Good point. And so that's been brought up as well. So I want everybody here and the viewing public to know that we are looking at everywhere, but I think we have a moral obligation to look where the need is first and spread out from there. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you.
Councilman Joe Jones. Excuse me. Councilman Joe Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to ask the question. I've asked for this information, so I'll see what the updated information will be. Because I think the critical thing, and one of the reasons we're here today, is how we improve the conditions of our neighborhood and what kind of programs that we can put in place to help people. And I find that through some of the testimony this morning, I like what I heard. And the need is really great in our communities. I've sat here for 8 years and pounded at this table about how bad it is in the 4th District and about all the killings and shootings. We had a meeting here, Mr. Chairman, the other day, and we were talking about spot zoning or zoning. And they had a statistical piece where they showed a radius of crime over in the Cadell neighborhood. And it was dealing with the gas station. And so I looked at the board, I said, well, I wish I had those numbers in my neighborhood, because if you pull up the spot location in our neighborhood, you'll have 150 accidents and maybe 25 deaths. Now, I know I'm over-exaggerating it, but those numbers are tremendously higher in terms of violence and death on the east side than it is anywhere else in the city. And so it was good to hear what they had to say. But we put this fund, Mr. Chairman, in place, and we were told in perpetuity, meaning that these funds would be here forever. And so I'm looking at the chart that we have in front of us that's up on the board right now. And I would ask, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Weiner, how much money do we actually currently have in the account as of today?
Mr. Weiner?
Through the chair to Councilman, the current balance of the fund is $8.631 million as of the most current data the Cleveland Foundation has is through February 28th, 2025.
And Mr. Chairman, if I recall, I was told that the interest alone would help this fund and that you would find matching funds and donors. Were we able to do that? And if so, do we look to see this fund continue to diminish from the 10 million mark and maybe even go lower and could potentially be used up, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Weiner?
Through the
If you can answer
Chair.
that.
Yeah, I can comment on that. And so we had the first 2 years, our 2 funding cycles, we wanted to make more aggressive, the committee wanted to make more aggressive investments. And the committee decided to do $1 million a year for those first 2 cycles. We are looking now at reducing the annual distributions to approximately $500,000 a year per the committee's approval. So that will help to curb some of that spending and allow the impact of the investments to be felt a little bit more. The other comment I would make about that is right now is currently the pool, the fund is invested in our money market pool. The Cleveland Foundation does have additional investment options that we can present to the committee and have a conversation about investment that may yield greater returns in a favorable market.
Right, and so, Mr. Chairman, the markets have actually been great, actually been outstanding up under the previous administration. Now, with the new administration, and I'm not so sure because it seems like the wheels are beginning to be peeled off off the wagon, or actually fall off the wagon as it relates to the economic distress that this party and this president is doing to our country right now. So, but because previously those markets were good, I am shocked, Mr. Chairman, that these funds have dipped to this level. And I'm kind of trying to figure out what did we gain with 10 million being in the bank, given the fact that, it should have been a lot faster growth here on this because of what the presentation initially was, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Weiner, was that we were going to put this in, we're going to take this $10 million, that's what was told us at this table, and then we were going to invest it in our pools and we're going to grow this fund. And then you would have those funds in perpetuity. And so right now I'm looking at this significant drop, and how do we make that up? And then what are your projections in the future as it relates to this particular fund, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Weiner?
To the chair. Well,
You can answer that.
What I can say is that I wasn't present at those initial meetings, and I would defer to my colleague Ginger if she had any comments about that initial meeting. But what I can say too is that we are. We take all of our investments very seriously at the Cleveland Foundation. We have tremendous stewardship at the foundation and are committed to growth. And with the committee's direction and advice and input, rather, we would be happy to look at investment pools that would help to make up some of the ground that has been. Maybe not have grown as quickly had it been in a different investment pool.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
You would care to comment? Identify yourself again, too, please.
Sure. Ginger Malakar, General Counsel at the Cleveland Foundation, and through the chair to the committee member. I was actually at the initial meetings when we talked about the inception of this particular fund. And by the way, it's a brilliant idea by all of you to come together and put these dollars, pool them, and to bring in all these wonderful committee members to make these critical decisions that have been very impactful, as you can tell. There was a discussion about going slower and having the money go out. I will tell you that I did hear from many members, I can't tell you who, that are still here, but there was let's get the money out quickly. There's some high need. So there was a discussion about $1 million to kind of get it up and going, which is what it looks like we've been following as we move along. So there was this initial to be really impactful to the community, but there is the ability to scale back, as my colleague, Jason Weiner just mentioned, so that's something that the committee will be considering to kind of go forward. As far as the return, it is in a money market account. It had over the last 2 years 4 to 5%. It is not exposed to the market because it's in the money market. So as you probably all are reading about the ups and downs of the market, it's currently not exposed to it. So in that way, it was to protect it, to make sure it had that longer vision. But it can be revisited. Just wanted to add on to your great questions.
And I think that was a very wise decision to do it that way. In fact, I just had the same discussion with a son of mine in a bank account. He had to put it in a money market account, so you're not in this volatility that's we're seeing taking place across the country. But there had also been, and I want to just back up a moment to my colleagues. Council President Griffin and myself, we spent a lot of time on this. We talked about this. Is this the right thing to do? When the legislation, when we passed, prior to passing the legislation, because we wanted to make sure we were having impacts. So again, what you've heard today, that there's some concern about the West Side members, about programs maybe not in their neighborhood where they think or they would like to see programs. But the other question is, how do we build the fund with the private sector? How do we get the corporations, how do we get the private community to understand the importance of violence prevention programs, the importance of youth diversion programs? How do we get them to buy into this fund so we can build it even larger? Do you have any ideas or thoughts from whoever? Yes. Identify yourself for the team.
Marvin Owens,
Yes.
Southeast Side Senior Strategist
Yes.
in the Mayor's Office, to the Chair.
Yeah.
I think the response to your question is the right one in terms of the fund needs the support of our corporate community
Yes.
in order to sustain it. It can't just be sustained by public dollars. It
Yes.
needs private support. And I think those are the kind of conversations that at the administration as well as City Council needs to have with our corporate leaders in the city of Cleveland. There are concerns about public safety, and public safety is not just a residence issue, it is a whole city issue. And corporations play a significant role in our city. So I'm happy to help out in terms
Yes.
of wanting to make the case that has been something that I've been very concerned about as a part of the committee, that corporations really do need to be at the table investing in the fund, but also seeing the value of those investments for the whole city.
Yeah, and I appreciate your comments because it's a challenge. This is something that the Council President and I talked about. How do we sustain this? And the other side of the equation, I was just at a meeting last night where a question came up by a citizen where how can the state, and their comment was directed at the state, how can the state justify funding $600 million plus for the Cleveland Browns at the same time the food bank is getting cut? Libraries are being proposed, funding for libraries, and you're hearing all this stuff, and it's of great concern. And then I didn't see it yesterday until early this morning. A monitor that I was watching for the opening of the the Guardians game, what they were charging for parking, $70 and $80 to park. 90? 90. And I'm thinking to myself, watching this thing, how many Cleveland residents can take their children or their grandchildren to a sporting event? You can't do it. Our people are being priced out. So we're asking on one side to support this, and then we have programs that are critical, violence prevention programs, youth diversion programs, however you want to call them all, and yet we don't have adequate funding for them. And somehow we're going to have to, I guess, use the power to bully pulpit with the corporate community and other agencies and individuals to figure out if they don't become partners with us, nothing changes. Nothing changes in this city. Continued poverty, continued despair, violence, et cetera, et cetera. So, again, I want to thank all my colleagues who supported this fund because I can tell you there was some consternation within the body. Is this what we should be doing? And we did it. And we did it. And I believe what you're telling us that it's working, and but we also know it could work probably much bigger and better if there's additional funding going into it. So, okay. I have, let me see who else I have.
Mr. Chairman, I
Yes.
still have the floor.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Can I
Councilman.
reclaim 5 minutes?
I'm sorry, I took your time. Go ahead.
Can I?
Go ahead,
I
no,
don't know if you got me on
continue,
clock.
because I have Councilwoman
All right.
Gray after.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you. On the point of sustainability, which we started on, which
Yes.
is really important here, I was one of the main members that completely supported the idea of having the fund. And I wanted to see, Mr. Chairman, how successful this fund would be with the Cleveland Foundation for the proposition of maybe even adding more money to the Cleveland Foundation for other things that the city of Cleveland to help us manage. And so when we talk about sustainability, what was told to us at the table, Mr. Weiner, was that you would be working within your institution and your organization with other funders, and they would be working to be supportive of this actual pool of resources. There was a commitment that we would have $10 million year in and $10 million year out, that this fund would grow, and we would have the resources and the capacity, again, and the word which was used was in perpetuity. And so that means forever. And so for me to see the fund that has dipped down to 8.6, and then there's no projections here that can make me feel at ease, and there's no discussion here on the portfolio that you presented to us to show us where all of those other additional funds would have came into those other investors that you stated in the initial beginning of this program that would help to sustain the fund. And so one of the things that's important to me as I sit here at the end of this table, when we use ARPA funds, Mr. Chairman, we should have used those funds and got leverage for those funds. And so I saw this as one of those opportunities to leverage our dollars and really be able to help our neighborhood in areas where there initially used to be support but no longer is support. And I think one of those propositions was having someone at the hospital, for an example, or having a mentoring program. We heard the young man talk about wrestling and how he took the kid for the first time to college. So all of these things are very critical for our city. And I want to, if Mr. Chairman, if Mr. Weiner can tell us that he can bring us some more information, because I presume, Mr. Weiner, that you are the fiscal agent concerning this particular account.
Through the chair, I'm one of the staff people assigned to support the fund and have a team that provides information that we need.
Can what you've heard me testify this morning, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Weiner, can you give us some light on projection of this fund and what you perceive and what you see at this moment? If you could, and I know that when you were talking about investments, it's a snapshot of the moment and a possible projection into the future. Can you give us a little bit of enlightenment on how we're going to grow this fund?
Yeah, through the chairman to the committee member, we are happy to run some projections that you're talking about and present those to the committee for them to look at, think about how it's invested, other sources, working with all the partners that we have, and also looking at the spending. Should it stay at the 1 million or be a different number to have it have a longer timeline? So the answer is yes, we're happy to do that and working with the committee members.
And I think, Mr. Chairman, it's only fair to the taxpayers that we have made decisions here at the table to be able to see a projection and to be able to see those numbers and what they look like 5 years from now. And the possibilities, and you can pull the tape of the committee. I think we spent hours and hours. I think, Mr. Chairman, you spent 5-6 hours on just this issue alone. A couple of times just to talk about it. So there was a great deal of discussion about it because at the time we, City Council, had never made, in fact it was unprecedented, Mr. Chairman, this council giving us a large, sizable amount of funds to the Cleveland Foundation. So I'm sitting here on this end wanting to safeguard that fund. And, Mr. Chairman, if you are a great steward of these resources, I am a fan of looking at other possibilities. So how soon can we get that information, Mr. Chairman, from Mr. Weiner?
Whoever can provide that.
Well, through the chair, we can provide that information to the committee, the Neighborhood Safety Fund Committee, at our May meeting, and then that information will be available to share following that. The date is escaping me. We are the last Thursday of the month. So,
And if it's a lot of information, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Weiner, I don't mind coming to your offices and sitting down and going over it so I can understand it a little bit more in depth, how it operates and works. And I think that would probably be, Mr. Chairman, really appropriate for this member to really fundamentally understand how that program is working, how it works, to take a look at the sheets, how it's being invested, and taking a look actually with my own eyeballs into your system and really understanding how it fundamentally works. Because I'll tell you again, Mr. Chairman, if we can make this a successful piece and we can really have these funds in the terminology that was given to the council in perpetuity, I think we should have a number of investments in the Cleveland Foundation to assist with a number of other issues that we're having in the city of Cleveland. And this here, Mr. Chairman, is just the first example. So when this member supported it, it was in the proposition of understanding that this would help us with our crime issues in our neighborhood, and then also secondary, I could look at this as a possibility of let's do it again. But at the end of the day, I would love to take a look at those spreadsheets and those projections in the next 3 to 5 years. And then, Mr. Chairman, I want to turn to what you said, and which you were rightfully so, making your comments that you haven't met the people who are serving your neighborhood. And so, as elected officials, it's incumbent upon us to know the people who are serving in our neighborhoods and have them to meet with us, in addition to, Mr. Chairman, to our director, Mrs. Jones. To Director Sonia Pryor Jones.
Yep. Chief, he directed a question to you.
I apologize to the chair. Can you repeat the question?
Mr. Chairman, was to get your attention. The question, Mr. Chairman, was to talk about getting the people who are in the neighborhood that serves the various different neighborhoods, getting their information as council members, because they're not necessarily reaching out to us. And I'm going to call all of them because I want to meet them. And I want to meet some of them that are borderline to me too, because, you know, council has resources. I need help. And I'm not sitting here at the table just because I want to just be sitting here. Mm-hmm. I'm sitting here at the table to get resources to my people in my neighborhood. We're in trouble, and I'm dealing with it. We just had a man shot and killed over here on Biltmore Avenue, and I had to go over and deal with it over on the weekend. So when a lot of people who are asleep in the bed, I'm out there at nighttime. So I want to know those institutions and those organizations, Mr. Chairman, to Mrs. Jones, that could help me out with my issues. And I have one of the most troubled high schools. And I think some of your people who were there have been doing a great job. We just need a better participation of the police department. So if you can make that information available, Mr. Chairman, that would be appreciative. And then lastly, Mr. Chairman, this message is probably for both the Cleveland Foundation and Mrs. Jones, because I know you guys work in partnership. Accountability is the next thing, the term accountability. So sustainability was the one piece. The next piece is accountability. Do we have any tools that we measure these organizations by, what they do, that shows some kind of report card on their successes? Now, I've asked for this in a public meeting at one of the churches, Mount Sinai Baptist Church to be exact. Reverend Matthews was there at the time, and we had a big, huge meeting. And so the question that was laid out is, how do we, or do we have any ways and means to measuring success? Because at the end of the day, if we have some of those tools, that would be very important to see how that is done, and then how you continue to fund the organizations you've been funding, or maybe cut some of the organizations because they haven't been meeting those measurements. So do we have that information that we can provide, Mr. Chairman, to both the Cleveland Foundation as well as Mrs. Jones?
Through the chair to Councilman Joe Jones. First, I do want to at least comment on the first question I believe I heard, which was related to connecting all of these grantees and people doing violence prevention work to council members. We did agree when the question and the request was made by Councilman Polenzek that that would happen for all council members. I would also offer that many of these grantees are part of the Cleveland Thrive Partnership. That partnership has an open meeting bi-monthly. We have had you attend one of those meetings, and I would encourage council members to come out. There's always opportunity to engage with all of the organizations who are working, because as it was shared here earlier by several people, this work will not get done if we are not all in partnership doing the work together. So when you can make the time to come and be in community with these providers, I think they really appreciate that. And so I'd encourage you all to come out to the next bi-monthly Cleveland Thrive meeting, and I will make sure that our program manager, Rich Austin, sends you the remaining meeting dates for the year so you all have it for your calendar. As far as your last question regarding how things are being assessed, how people are being held accountable, the Cleveland Foundation has also shared that through their own funding dollars, separate from the Neighborhood Safety Fund, they have hired consultant Janice Smalls to engage with all of the organizations. She is leading a cohort model where they are coming together, sharing data, having conversations about impact, as well as other things to build their capacity. Additionally, the Cleveland Foundation does require a report, an end of grant cycle report from all of the grantees, and when we receive those, that's an opportunity to review impact. And then we also mentioned that advisory committee members are going out and they're actually doing site visits. And so this gives us an opportunity in many cases to see the programs in action.
Mr. Chairman, to Mrs. Pryor Sonia Jones, I just want to say thank you for the work you do. I don't want you to think my questions are any way hostile towards the program in any way. It's my concern, Mr. Chairman, to Mrs. Pryor Sonia Jones, is to make sure that this is a sustained program. There's an accountability system. I've asked for it. I haven't received it. And it's good to know that you maybe brought someone on to help you try to process that. So I guess the question, Mr. Chairman, in my mind is, how do we determine, is this the, I mean, I guess the question is, do we have, is the program being created of accountability, or has it been there, or, I mean, can you talk about that? That's what I need to have in my hand, something to see. So do we have something where we can see the progress?
Okay, through the chair to Councilman Jones, your question is there a report for you?
Is there a report to this council, Mr. Chairman, to Mrs. Pryor Jones? We've committed $10 million of the taxpayers' money, and we were told that when we gave you that $10 million, you were going to do two things. You were going to grow that fund. That's number one, that it was going to be in perpetuity. And then number two, you talked about accountability. And so those are the two questions, Mr. Chairman, I'm posing, is having the information of accountability of what these organizations have done thus far with the funds we have given them, so that we can try to have an idea of how successful they are. And again, Mr. Chairman, the importance and significance of this is to be able to weed out those that are doing the work well and showing a measure of success in our neighborhood versus those that may not be doing so well.
Through the chair to Councilman Jones, that's the whole idea behind this presentation. Not only has the advisory committee and the Cleveland Foundation staff come to present results, but you also had an opportunity to hear directly from grantees. The Cleveland Foundation we do, this council, along with the leadership from Council President Griffin and Mayor Bibb, made a decision that there would be an advisory committee that works closely with the Cleveland Foundation staff. And so that committee is also receiving information once it's available to make decisions about accountability and what happens with the fund long term. The Cleveland Foundation staff will have to explain to you anything else that might be available if that is something that they're able to do.
Right. I guess let me just, if I can, Mr. Chairman, I don't know how many ways to say this, simplify it. Do we have a report card on each organization that shows what their success is? How do we measure their success? How do we determine if they will get another round of funding?
Who can answer that question?
We do have reporting from the first round of grantees that were funded in 2023. We do have reports from them that identify the work that they've done. We do not have that yet for the grantees from 2024 because that won't be due until the end.
I'm sorry, what was that?
We do not have the report back from the grantees of 2024 because that won't be due until this year of 2025 because they get 1 year. So we do have some metrics that city council members that are part of the advisory could share with you.
Well, Mr. Chairman, my request is directly to the Cleveland Foundation and to Sonia Pryor-Jones, not to the members of council. And certainly, we didn't, just because I just want to make sure I'm clear here, because it seems like we're struggling. And so I don't want to struggle here at the table for the request of information. So if we do have the 2023 report, can, Mr. Chairman, that report be made available? And then, Mr. Chairman, the question is, and I just want to make sure I'm on the same page here. Are we saying that the people who we are funding are giving us their report card, or how are we evaluating their effectiveness? Okay. Are we evaluating, Mr. Chairman, their effectiveness from the Cleveland Foundation, along with the City of Cleveland, who are evaluating this? Now, 2 years ago, I asked for an evaluation on these programs. And I got a reason why I'm asking this question, Mr. Chairman, and it's a serious one. So I'm going to ask again, do we have evaluation sheets and forms on an annual basis, and especially when we're talking about refunding or re-up funding to the same institutions and organizations? Do we have something that we can show this committee, this body, our taxpayers, what we're being given?
Who can answer that?
Through the
Yes.
chair, I do want to make sure that all of our council members, our listening audiences also has some awareness. When this legislation was passed and a contract was signed between the City of Cleveland and the Cleveland Foundation, the $10 million became dollars that belong to the Cleveland Foundation and all of the ways in which they practice and follow protocols as a standalone organization. Myself, my city colleagues, community members, and council members who are on the advisory committee are an advisory committee. And so we receive pieces of information from the Cleveland Foundation to allow us to make good advisory decisions. Above and beyond that, in my role as Chief for Youth and Family Success for the City of Cleveland, I do not have ownership over their reports, their documents, or any information. So it does not have the same protocol as if I was here speaking on behalf of my general fund dollars and any work that I'm doing in my office. So I just want to make sure that it's clear around that delineation, and that, I would encourage you to go back and review the contract and the ordinance, because those things really do outline for us how this all plays out.
I see. So the issue is still the same, Mr. Chairman. Who's holding accountable these organizations then?
Okay. Cleveland Foundation, any comment?
The advisory holds the organization accountable, and we evaluate based on impact. So I'm not exactly sure if we have explained it clearly, but we measure the impact that the organizations have made within community and the young people and their families. We do not have a report that we give out to the council. The advisory reads and analyzes the reports and the site visit checklist. So that is how we evaluate who will be funded for next round. As we have narrowed the focus for the final round, as we stated in the proposal, it will be diversion and prevention. So it will be less organizations funded in this third round.
Oh, then, Mr. Chairman, this seems to be really difficult. There's two issues here at the table. I would make a suggestion that maybe we need to look at the legislation and think about potentially offering up some type of amendment. The two areas that I'm very concerned about is the longevity of the fund. I'm not going to sit here and waste my time. What we put together here, hopefully, if it's God's will last long after I'm gone and dead. But in order to make sure that it lasts long, we're at a deficit now in this program. There has been no presentation given, Mr. Chairman, that shows us any fundamental projections. It's an ABC 123 report. And I would like to see those projections on a business scale so that I can understand fundamentally the possibility of the longevity of the existence of this entire fund cycle. The second piece, Mr. Chairman, is it sounds like to me that there's no accountability system set up. And we need to have accountability set up between the Cleveland Foundation and the City of Cleveland, because this is where the partnership is at. And that partnership needs to be one where there's communications. And, Mr. Chairman, I would ask to the distinguished lady, Mrs. Tony, that these are public funds. There are public dollars. So, therefore, any kind of sheets or spreadsheets or accountabilities, they should also be made public because they're public dollars. And so we want to be able to, Mr. Chairman, to Mrs. Tony, and to Mrs. Pryor-Jones, make sure that our funds are protected. Our funds are protected. That what was said at the table, the deals that were said at the table on accountability, because you talked about that, Mr. Chairman, to Mrs. Jones, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Jones, Mrs. Jones. We talked about it. You talked about it. You sold me on accountability. You sold me on the proposition of perpetuity. And so I want to be able, sitting here at the end of this table, Mr. Chairman, is to say, how do we do that and what are the next steps? And so maybe, Mr. Chairman, after this is over with, we can talk about the possibilities of putting in, this legislation in front of us right now?
No.
Okay.
No.
So
This is a
then
presentation.
we need to probably talk about pulling the legislation and amending the legislation in two areas. One is to make sure that council gets at least a update, a quarterly update on this fund program. Number one, on terms of, because right now we're at an 8.6 deficit. Number one, the accountability on this fund and how it's used on a quarterly basis. The second issue, and that's how you do it in business. The second issue, Mr. Chairman, that I think is really important is accountability. So the accountability of knowing if these organizations and these institutions that are doing work in our neighborhood, what are they doing, how successful are they, and then how many people are they reaching. We've heard some great examples of the work that has been put here at the table. I appreciate the administration under Sonia Pryor-Jones to work as hard as she has been working to put this in place. I hate to see, Mr. Chairman, not to have an accountability and system in place for that and a system of sustainability for this fund. And I yield, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate the time that you have given.
We're about to lose a quorum. So, Councilwoman Bray, and then I'm going to make an announcement.
Right.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to bring, if all due respect, I wanted to echo some things that Councilman Jones has said that was in the line of what I wanted to ask about. We have 6 organizations, Chair, to the team. I see 6 organizations for the second round that been working in Ward 4. And I do agree with him to see reports on these different organizations that has accomplished their goals. And heard some good things at the table, but I would like to see the reports of the accomplishment that these 6 teams, these 6 organizations have done in Ward 4 to know the outcome of the service that they gave to the people that needed that service that's working with the organizations. I will agree with Councilman Jones on that, because I am definitely, and of the other colleagues, I believe we all boots on the ground.
But I believe, just a moment, if I may, I believe we don't have the legislation because, again, we passed it in 2023.
Okay, and I think that's
But I
what's gonna be
believe there was a
asked, and
quarterly.
We have a quarter report supposed to be
Right.
showing that.
There-
She
I believe
said-
that was in the legislation.
Okay, all right,
Thank you.
but that's the first round, but if I can get an update on the second round if possible? Because we at the table in the second round, not the first round, but I understand what Councilman Joe Jones asked.
Okay.
I would like to have that too, because we have so much going on in the community. We still have other kids that's not part of the program that need help. We got other kids running around, shooting, carjacking, getting killed, having a lot of issues. And I would like to understand how we can get those kids into the program. Is he leaving? Huh?
Through the
Okay.
through
All
the
right.
chair.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry. So, yeah, I would like to understand how those kids that's not being attended to, that need this type of assistance in the program, and how these programs can go out in the community to reach those kids that's having problems. Okay? And we have not figured that out. And we need to figure that part out too. Bring those kids into the program. And leave not only CMSD kids, those kids who not going to school, probably want to come to school, but no one's reaching out to find why those kids are running raggedly in the community and getting killed with no guidance. So that's what I'm talking about. Secondly, I want to just say, before the young man, Chair, the young man just, the young person just left out, I want to bring him to the table, and I want to talk to this young man. I want to ask questions for them too. No one else. I just want to ask them questions so they can talk about, I have a specific question for these two young people.
Hey, go through.
Okay, yeah.
Just address them and then through the
Okay.
chair.
To the
Young
chair,
man,
I want
come
to
on up
address
the
these
table.
two young men.
Come on over here.
Could you sit with him? Yes. Yes, because the program is about the young kids, not the adults who created the programs. They are in the program. So my question is this, what I just stated, Chair. We have, you guys are in different programs, correct? Or you're in the program I just talked to, Nerve DJ. I just spoke to him in the hallway. Now, which program you advocate, or are you over?
I was
Chair to, what's your name again?
yeah. My name is Tremonte Rui. I was selected.
You're on the advisory committee, correct?
Yes, I was selected through the Who's After Dark initiative by the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Okay, all right, wonderful, wonderful. But and your name again, I'm sorry.
James Clark.
James Clark, you're still at home with parents going to school?
Yeah.
Tell them to use the microphone. So we can
Okay, use your microphone.
Yes, I am.
So my question is this. How is it going well with your parents in the household? Because we have not reached the parents of all these kids that attend these programs. That's the part I have not heard as of yet. When we reach the kids to get them better, for them to do better, to them to focus on what needs to be done for them. Tell me the story how your parent is involved with your growth with the program that you're in, because we need to get the parents to help the kids to stay focused, and we need to have the parents to stay focused too. So could you tell me your story, Chair, too?
So like a normal family stuff, like play games, like checkers, sorry, normal games, make sure we're happy before, she's always check up on us,
Okay.
stuff like that.
So your parents are involved with you in the program with the Nerve DJ?
Yeah,
So it's going well?
yes, it is.
See, that's the example that we need to hear. That's the example we need to hear. We have to go into the household, and so the parenting can be better with the child who is progressing in the program. And that's how far we need to go, with mom and dad, with grandparents, with great-grandparents. So we need to extend the program with this funding into the household, because we have so many kids still out here in the streets not being attended to. So I get my colleague's point on how much more we need to assess the funding so we can deep dive into the neighborhood. So young man, could you tell me about, how old are you? Because you still look young.
Yeah,
you may be on your own, but Chair, too.
Yeah, I'm 21 years old.
21.
Yeah, turning 22 this year. My mother, she was very supportive of me. Any of, my dreams or wishes, she was supportive. She told me the pros and cons of all of them. She was very realistic with me, and she was, a nurturing mother.
Yeah. See, that's wonderful to hear. So by these two examples that we have into the room, we need to have more of the youth at this table talking about the success they went through the programs that we are, that we have funded, not necessarily the person who over the program to talk about the success. We have no data. We have no data, and that's the data that Councilman Jones is talking about. The data is to bring these young folks that's in these programs to these meetings so we can hear their success and how their parents have engaged with them through this program so they can become successful. And we need to understand how to reach these kids. Whoever got these programs, Chair, to the public, whoever got these programs up and running in these communities, I don't have all the details on your expertise, and I am really grateful you guys got the passion. You got the strength to do this, because we all not built that way. We are not all built that way. There's a certain selected of people that can go out here and do what y'all do, and I think it's just absolutely wonderful, because we have a village and we got to rebuild it. However, this success is to continue to save our children, to find out why a lot of the other children are still out here in the streets not being attended to. If they don't know about the program, how can we reach them who are in trouble, who are reaching them to go out to them in these programs to get them to understand the programs are existing now? In your program, you need to extend that when you see these kids on TV, when you see these kids out of the neighborhood, carjacking or killing or whatever and getting arrested. Who goes to, I know there's other programs that go and talk to the kids, talk to the parents. We got to get into the household to save our kids to come into these programs, to keep them focused so they can continue to thrive and be the best they can be. And the next time you guys come to this table, bring these children in your program to this meeting if possible, and have them come to the table to talk about their success, how the parents are engaging with them in the program, being so supportive as you guys are also part of the support system for the parent and the youth. So I'm not going to go into all the other details because I'm not going to echo everything what all councilors have already talked about, even the Cleveland Thrive, what they are doing versus what the neighborhood safety funds are y'all working together. But my whole focus is this: that's your data. The kids in y'all program are the data. If you can't specifically show us the paper, the actual data that our councilman is talking about for us to see, because we get that quarterly. However, this is the data. This is the data. They need to be at the table to let us know the success that they have been through and how much they enjoyed it. This young man is on the advisory board. He's awesome. When I first heard him speak and stuff, he was awesome. Gave me chills. But this person, he was sitting there. I don't know if he came to the table because I left out, but he needed to be at the table. So that's what I'm saying. This is the data I want to hear, because I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, and we want to see the success in our black neighborhoods with our black kids. But this is our data, and their parents have to be involved. So, Chair, thank you. That's all I need to say. Thank you. All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Council Lady. Our last one is Councilman Stark, because we have lost, we're losing a quorum.
Thank you. Yes,
Thank you.
thank you, Chairman. Thank you, the Safety Committee, as well as members of the community for coming down. Special shout out to the Neighborhood Safety Fund Committee for working together the last 2.5 years, potentially to be able to have this opportunity in our neighborhoods. And yes, I would definitely be right in line to make sure I did tell you that the challenge that we have within this opportunity is really not enough resources. And from that whole lens, I remember back in 2023, where we came up with this opportunity with the ARPA dollars that was presented. And one of the things I said down at the table was, we have issues going on in our neighborhood, and if we're just going to allow money to grow without getting any dollars out, would be an issue, because we want to make sure we are getting money on the ground. So I think I was the one that made that amendment for us to be able to get $1 million out by December of 2023, and then the committee came back and said, let's do another $1 million in 2024. I believe that in order for us to change the culture of the neighborhood, with my 17-year career working in the community and working with different organizations to try to curb violence, it takes resources. It's not just a couple of dollars here, a couple of dollars there. We need to work together as a collective unit to make sure we do this, but then also make sure we have checks and balances to make sure the funding is going where it goes. So that's why it's important for the reporting process that the committee has came up with, so us to be able to get all that information from each recipient of the last 2 year rounds of funding, which is very important. Major shout out to the Cleveland Foundation team and their leadership for making sure we had learning sessions within this whole process. It's important to hear from those leaders who are on the boots on the ground, from the Peacemaker Alliance, from the Juvenile Justice Collaborative, from the National Leagues of Cities, the Alliance for Safety and Justice, to be able to be involved is very important. Major shout out to also Director Angela Shute-Woodson, who brings in a lot of experience and knowledge, who served on the committee to be able to help provide different support to say, hey, what certain organizations do, certain organizations that she's funding, who possibly need additional funding. I think that paid dividends on this effort. But like I said, gun violence, violence in our community, we could say is down, up or down, but at the end of the day, the reality is we are challenged with a lot of different issues in our community. We challenge with different disparities, challenges such as what we do have in our community and what we don't. But what we have to do is take advantage of one thing, and that's being a partner and collaborating together to be able to make this happen. Whether I am here or whether I am gone or anyone is sitting here, the challenges that we see in our neighborhood as far as violence continue to spike, and it's going to take more than just the Neighborhood Safety Fund to do it alone. It's going to take more than Community Relations Board to do it alone. It's going to take more of us having a strategic plan, so say how we're going to address this, but also working in collaborations, obviously with our schools, so we can reach our kids as young as we possibly can, because violence is not just happening with adults, it's starting early and then lingering into an issue that travels down to adulthood. So we have to start and do this together. So I just wanted to make sure I put on record that I do support this initiative. I think we have some more things we need to do to get more dollars out the door. And I also want to make sure I put this out there that Cleveland Foundation, we need you to take the lead on getting this public sector, not just the public sector, the private sector, to invest in this. I believe with the type of endowment that you have in place, there's some things we can definitely do. And just from a closing point, just to bring on topic, CMSD needs a lot of help, especially in their young kids and their young schools. When you talk about safety, when you talk about security, when you talk about to and from school, we need to have boots on the ground organizations helping to solve those issues. I believe the more times that we have our schools are open, lights are on, children are there, they are safer in our neighborhood than they are just going to any place else in the neighborhood. So we need to really, really sit down, and I think we're going next within the committee is to come out with our strategic plan on how we can be more proactive on violence prevention strategy, because that's what the city of Cleveland needs, and safety is a top priority, and it should remain a top priority until further notice. I yield, Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Starr. heard some of the requests, the concerns that we've had. So whoever your point person is, you can contact me. We'll figure out some of those, how we can clarify some of those things. We appreciate the work that you have done. We appreciate the work of the organizations that are out there. We'd like, obviously, more information on them. Some of my colleagues who are not here have indicated we want to make sure, because we are in a political season, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, we want to make sure none of the groups are engaged in any political activities. I want to make that very clear. That we fund groups, but we want to make clear they are not to be involved in any political activities because we don't want to jeopardize the funds at all and the disbursement of those funds. So that being said, I have two pieces of legislation. I am going to hold these two pieces, and I'm going to schedule them at the call of the chair. We have lost critical people here that we needed here that have left. So at this point, the committee stands adjourned, and I will, at the call